All right, IAmHotep family, welcome to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Today we're gonna have I Am Black Every Day, uh, and we're gonna discuss Powernomics in in Black America and whether or not it can work. I'm gonna tell you it can't, but of course I'm gonna invite this brother to prove me wrong. So, but before everything is said, let me ask I Am Black Every Day to introduce himself. Let us know what he knows and how he knows it.
How you doing, brother? Thank you very much for having me on. Um, I am a very self-taught individual. A lot of things I know is from, personal readings, personal documentaries, personal ventures. Everything I do my due diligence to attempt to learn more, to dig deeper into things. Once I get my hands on something that I find intriguing, I want to try to spread that knowledge. So, everything about it is just, I believe everything we do can be self-learned, self-taught, control of the mind, control of, what we intake, things like that. So that's where I sit, trying to control everything I bring in and put out.
All right, brother. So let us know about Powernomics. And as far as I understand, you believe that Powernomics can work in Black America, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let us know what Powernomics is and what does that look like in Black America.
Okay. Powernomics is of course, an economic standpoint. We in Black America do not hold any real community, real unity as far as building together. Powernomics is a economic group type of deal. So it comes down to businesses working together, us building models of business for a community, not just for an individual. So if you build a vertical model, distribution, manufacturing, promotion, economics, all of that should be within one community. If you have a restaurant, you shouldn't have to go outside your community to get your produce. There should be a Black farm there for you to receive your produce or whatever else you may need for your business. We do not practice economics as a group. We practice as individuals, which we do very well, actually. We don't do too bad, especially with online businesses and things like that. We find ways to do quite well for ourselves. We also are heavy consumers. We spend a lot of money that is frivolous spending, as you would say. And the whole concept is about, again, discipline, unity, wrangling everything in and keeping it in a tight-knit community similar to how they may do in Little Havana or in Chinatown, where you don't have any outside business. You can't put a Black-owned business in Chinatown. They won't let you. So as far as the Black community, anybody could put a business into the Black community. They come in, they put their business, and then they take their money and take it out of the community and shop with their own. They don't take their money and bring it back to us and help us build. So the concept, again, is solidifying the community, closing up the community, keeping everything tight-knit, keeping everything Black, circulate Black dollar, improve economics through, improve politics through the economic power that we build, things of that nature. It hasn't been practiced.
All right.
So
okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I was just gonna say we must practice it.
Yeah. Look, I completely agree. But let's just get into it, right? I want to ask you this. You said Chinatown. Are you proposing that we do something like Chinatown?
Yes, sir. I believe that we should have our own, as you would say, Black Wall Street or Idlewild or Rosewood, or, you know what I mean? There's many communities I can name, of course, all of which that have been destroyed. Mm-hmm. Not trying to, hurt my point, but in this day and age, I believe we have the attempt to do these type of things.
Let me
There are
ask you
cities
this,
that
though.
present.
I'm gonna run this by you though, bruh. You said
Yes, sir.
vertical integration, right? Vertical integration. You said
Yes, sir.
you have a restaurant, you have the farms next to you, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. Now let me ask you this: how much farmland do Chinese people own in America?
I could not give you a actual number.
Yeah. The number is gonna be close to 0%.
Understood.
All right. So my thing is that if Chinese people got restaurants in Chinatown, but they don't have any land in Chinatown. You ain't never went into Chinatown and saw no farmers, no Chinese farmers, have you?
Understood.
I'm just saying, like, I went to Chinatown before once upon a time, and I've never come across anything remotely suggestive of them doing agriculture. So in that sense, even if we were trying to do Chinatown, I'm saying even if we were trying to do Chinatown.
To clarify, sorry to cut you off. To clarify though, you're speaking specifically within Chinatown, correct? The location of Chinatown where the businesses and everything, the streets are busy and all that stuff.
I'm speaking about Chinese people in America, yeah. Chinese people in Chinatown, yeah. Chinatown definitely. Well, cause the reason why I'm speaking about Chinatown is because you mentioned Chinatown, right?
Understood.
You said you wanted the food supply near the where you have the restaurant. You said the restaurant should be local to the agriculture, but I'm telling you that I've yet to see Chinatown.
When I say local, if I could be specific,
yeah, clarify, bro.
Local meaning yes sir. Local meaning that the people within Chinatown are able to get to that produce without real hassle, meaning they have someone that they know they can call guaranteed is going to come to them. There's not going to be no price haggling. There's not going to be no running off and finding them. As far as Chinatown, no, there's no farms in Chinatown.
No farms in Chinatown.
But I do believe there are Chinese farmers in America that may be able to provide produce to wherever they need to provide it.
Hold on a second.
I could look that up. We could look it up.
Look it up, bro. But here's what I would tell you: a lot of the food that people in Chinatown eat are shipped from China. Okay.
That's fine.
China. What did I search again? China. Oh, Chinese land ownership in U.S. for agriculture. I want to specify agriculture. So
yes,
China,
sir.
Oh, okay. This is just a Chinese company. American soil is increasingly. Well, this is about China itself, but like for the most part, a lot of it is imported, and I can tell you the reason why I know it's imported because once upon a time I had to sit next to a Euro Jew, okay, for whatever reason, she decided to get some rapport with me, I'm just trying to blend in, whatever. She then offers me a piece of chocolate, right? She offers me some chocolate, and it's some brand I've never seen before, and it's a brand that was made in Israel. The same with even if you go to now here's something that a lot of people don't know, but if you go into certain areas in Brooklyn, you'll find like a Haitian, like a whole Haitian area, right? Where and you go into the stores, you'll find made in Haiti kind of food products. The same with most everybody. Everybody's running a restaurant is importing food, and for the most part, a lot of people who are, let's say, foreign-born, or foreign descent, if you will, are importing that food from another nation. The issue with Black Americans is that they are not from, well, they are from another nation, but they have no connection with another nation, and so in that sense and in that regard, it's just impractical to start in America and say, oh, I want to own this land and yada yada. Mostly because at the moment, as somebody else will point out, that white people own all the land in America, or most all the land in America.
White people definitely own 95% of everything in America, pretty much. My point being is, we can localize a business. We can also localize our farms in terms of working together. We can also build relationships with international African nations, other black nations. The whole concept, again, is to not just build in America without reaching out. I understand 100% where you're coming from, and you definitely are spot on. There's going to be limits to the land that we can receive and what we can produce here as far as raw material. But I am in no means against reaching out to build that type of relationship as far as international commerce. That is also a part of the concept of building power. You know what I mean? Like you said, white people own everything out here, so we have to reach somewhere else at some point.
I'm gonna share this screen. I think this will probably work. I hope this is the right screen. I can't tell if it's the right screen. I hope it's the right screen. So if you click on this screen, hopefully the people at home can see this. It might be a little too small. I can't tell. But this is it. This is Asian. This is the farms with Asian operators compared with all farms. So that's 24,000 farms. 24,000, I think, acres maybe? Oh no, this is a number of farms. This is the amount of acres. Oh, maybe I guess they have a lot of acres actually. But this is the amount of farms they have. This is the amount of farms there are. I mean, it looks like they do have some pretty big farms though. Not gonna say.
So,
but I mean, yeah.
So they do own some land to where they could provide, you know, maybe a limited amount of things. But of course, again, as you said, they do get things shipped from overseas, which that's all added.
No, sorry. This is sorry. That was the average. I guess that was the average. My fault. Yeah, this was the average size of farm. Sorry. I can't tell because I don't know why they show the average. So this is the land and farms, which is 2 million acres compared to 914 acres in America. You know? So sorry, 914 million acres. So they have about like I want to say 2%.
914 million.
Yeah, you might want to mute the screen.
I see where you're at.
Yeah.
So the average size of an Asian farm is 135 acres.
Yeah.
As far as land in total, they have 2 million and some change as far as acres. Okay, so they actually are doing some agricultural work out here.
Black folk have 4 million. We have twice as many acres.
So if we have twice as many acres, why can we not find a way to link those businesses?
Well, the reality is this, though, that they, like, and again, look how much this is, 4 million, so this is 4% of the land. Okay? This is 4% compared to 914 million acres. You couldn't do much with this.
914.
Yeah, you want to mute the thing, yeah. This is the average, this is the market value of products sold. It's $36,000. It's worth about $36,000 average per farm, and so on and so forth. And this is the government payment. This is the government's paying them much less apparently. But this is what we're doing with our farms. So this is the whole document. If people want to see it, they can. Looks like it's NASS. They can obviously search it like I did, or you can. I'll leave it into the. I'll put it in the YouTube link as well as. I'll put it on Discord too. So I'll put it in the Discord maybe later. Let me see.
Understood.
That's the YouTube.
But
yeah, this is.
But that is a strong sense. I understand. Now think about it like this: if those black farmers and their 4 million acres are being used to attempt to sell to Food Lion, Walmart, Harris Teeter, or whoever else would try to buy it, correct? Or let's assume that. And the Asian 2 million is specifically for an Asian community. Understand how they allocate their asset? They use it specifically for their community or specifically for something that's going to benefit them, as opposed to attempting to reach out other. Now, not saying that all black farms and all black businesses do this, but if we, run numbers and do percentages, we're losing. We need more of the coming together, and if you have a farm or a raw product you need to be looking for a black distributor, a black retail, black producer, promotion business to try to help you move along if you cannot build that yourself.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously you'd want to do that. But everything is easier said than done. And not just that, you're going to get resistance from the nation itself, you know?
I love that you said that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give you a quote on power.
Okay.
So, in the book Black Labor, White Wealth, on page 29, there's a quote that says, "Power is not simply the ability to get something done, but to get it done despite the resistance and opposition of others."
Okay.
So we should be in the mindset that we are going to get pushback because we've always been receiving pushback.
You got to get pushback.
Exactly, we're going to get pushback. What history lesson have we learned that helped us to believe that we're not going to receive any pushback?
No, of course you're going to get pushback. So, that's the problem is that you're not the majority. Okay? When you aren't the majority, that's where your problems come in. You know? Because especially if you even vaguely believe that there's a majority rule, and there's not a majority rule, but even if you vaguely believe there's a majority rule, you will be ruled over. When you look at this agricultural thing, like I just said, you have 4% of the acreage of land, and it's decreasing. Okay?
Yes, understood.
Whereas your competitor has, let's say, 90% of the acreage of land, and it's increasing. All right. When it comes to it, because the thing is this: the reason why I showed you the Chinese land ownership was to say that the Chinese Americans do not supply the food in Chinatown. They do not supply the produce in Chinatown. The people who supply the produce in Chinatown are the Chinese nation itself. So what I say is, Pan-African nationalists, or what Pan-African nationalists say is, we need a strong nation in Africa, right? And that the front lines, or the vanguard, if you will, for African liberation will be in Africa. And only when there's a strong nation in Africa can you hope to have a strong African American. But without a strong nation in Africa, no, the situation that you find yourself in is dire. And notwithstanding that, because you're under the authority of another people, contrary to whatever rhetoric you may have or whatever mindset you may have, right? Because you're under the authority of another people, they can destroy anything you're doing very easily. And they have.
They have destroyed us by completely ransacking communities and things of that nature. Fair game. But we have never played a real role in terms of actually organizing fairly, actually protecting ourselves properly.
Yeah, but look,
actually coming together as a whole population.
Bruh, the thing is this: you cannot protect yourself properly. Have you ever played any video games?
So, yes, sir. I play me.
What's a game you played?
God of War. Let's make it easy.
Okay, God of War. Okay, let me think about God of War. Okay, God of War. All right, that's not a good. All right, look, do you have any war games? You ever played any war games? Like RTS, real-time strategies, anything like that?
I guess we're not gonna make it easy. I play chess. Let's go there.
All right, chess. Oh, jeez. All right, whatever. All right. All right. Let me just put it this way. Let me just put it. All right. Let's say chess. You're playing chess. What if you were playing chess, right? And could you win if you had only pawns against a team that was not only pawns? Like, could you win against a competent player if you did not have your back line at all?
Against a competent player without my back line.
Without the queen, without the king, without the rook, without the bishop, without the knight. You just had pawns, and you were playing against a competent player. Could you win?
Competent. I mean,
all you could do is go forward.
Doesn't mean.
All you can do is charge. That's it. You know what I'm saying? You could just charge and maybe kill something.
Understood. But chess. That I guess that is a rough strategy. Understood. That would be a hell of a feat.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
I don't know anybody who could. I don't think a grandmaster could. It would be very difficult for anybody to play without the more strategic pieces. The thing is that when it comes to black people in America, you don't. Now, what do these things represent? You know, the bishop represents, I suppose, the institution of culture. You know, religion, if you will. But we'll just say the institution of culture. The rook kind of represents. I used to have this in memory, but the rook, I guess, kind of represents, let's say, architecture. I don't know, whatever, like towers, you know, blah blah blah. And that's really the most important piece that I was really gonna get to. The knight represents a defense, you know, defensive, you know, a mobile skirmisher, if you will.
Military.
Right? Yeah.
Let's say military, politics, economics, and culture.
Exactly. The king represents leadership, and the queen represents, you know, well, she's just like a badass on a thing, but she represents, you know.
The queen is the money. She's the money. She allows you to attack as often as you possibly can.
So here's the thing, right? If you don't have these things, now the most important. Now it's not the most important piece in chess, but I want you to understand that if you are trying to, the only kind of warfare that you can engage in America would be guerrilla warfare. Okay? That's the only kind of warfare you could engage in America.
Well,
and the thing
you know, there have been wars won based off of that strategy.
Yeah, of course. But that's when you, like, when you, I want you to, you know, I read, I think I recommended that you read a handbook on revolutionary warfare, right? The book is all about guerrilla warfare, okay? One of the things that you realize with the guerrilla, though, is that you have to attack and then hide, you know? You have to attack and then retreat. You can't just, like, stick around and stay fighting, right? The issue with, so what guerrilla warfare, like the ideal circumstance for guerrilla warfare is when you can kind of hide, blend in, have full mobility, so on and so forth. That's easier when you are the majority.
At home.
Yeah, when you're the majority. You know? If you are the minority, it is not as easy. You know? And not just, it's not that easy, but you can, essentially, you can be, if somebody can pinpoint your location, they can burn you out. You know, I don't know if you know Biggie's song. I want to go Biggie. One of Biggie's songs was, he had some, I think they started a fire, and this is actually a common tactic, where you start a fire in a building, and then people run out.
To smoke them out.
And then when they run
it's
out,
like shooting crabs in a barrel.
Yeah, you shoot them then. And this is like a common tactic.
I want to ask this one question, because what you have presented to me is something that is difficult to accomplish, extremely difficult, but not impossible to accomplish. Now, despite, you know what I mean, that we have these obstacles, I would like to know what would be a better situation we could place ourselves in.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. That, you know, there's, I don't know if you, all right, let's say you go back to video games. You play God of War, right? In God of War, before you start the game, you can say what difficulty you want to play it at. You know? And I don't know, let's say there's difficulties, but let's say there's, you know, easy, there's normal, there's hard, there's nightmare, you know? Whatever, right? This would be nightmare. You know? I'm not saying you can't beat nightmare. I'm not saying that you can't blah, blah, blah. It would just be incredible. It's little, it's fixed against you. It's little reward for your effort. And you will likely die trying, achieving nothing. Okay?
Okay.
So it's you know, yes, you know, the reality is that everybody is living their life. They can do what they want with their lives. They can throw away their lives if they so choose. You know? But, you know, what I would advise people, you know, people listening, you, anybody else, I would advise them to not throw away their lives. you know, and to try to live and have some sort of long-standing impact outside of maybe a news story.
Oh, so yeah, I apologize to cut you off.
Yeah.
But if Powernomics is nightmare, right? What would be easy is what I'm asking you.
Nothing is easy, right?
Okay, so what would be normal then?
Well, normal would be to, well, not to say nothing is easy, but normal would be to work in Africa, to work and build institutions in Africa and connecting those institutions on the continent. You know, basically, you're not going to be facing the strongest military one of the strongest militaries on the planet. You're not going to be facing that. You know, if you're going to get, you might get resistance in Africa, but it will not be one of the strongest militaries on the planet. And not just that, but you might get assistance in Africa, a lot of assistance, because if you're trying to build up the economy on the continent, you have a lot more people who are sympathetic to that than you would have in America, where they are unsympathetic to black advancement, and have been prohibiting it for the last how many centuries. So that is so yes, if you now the question always becomes which country in Africa, and of course, like I said, everybody can live their life however they want and however they choose to, and because you can live your life however you choose to, I would advise you go to Africa and just see what fits for you, and if it's good there, it's good there, and if it's good for a while, it's only good for a while, But I would advise that we as individuals, we go to Africa, we try our hand at this Africa, at building, at nation building on the continent, and then from there, like that can work. And not just that, but apparently it's also cheaper. You know what I mean? So it's just a lot easier.
Your suggestion would be for as many people who are willing to repatriate to Africa, build economically within Africa, and then afterwards they're just there in Africa, and that's how we're going to strengthen Africa.
You would strengthen the whole race. Let me say this: if you have a powerful nation on the continent, right? And of course, we want to really talk about Powernomics, but I would say if you want to have a powerful nation on the continent, then you can do what every other people do, and that is you can pay for other people to come to you. So what I mean by that is that, like I said, my family comes from another country. I'm not going to say that America paid for us to come here. I don't have any idea, to be honest. But as far as I understand, because America was a strong nation with good propaganda and all that, we emigrated. The reality is that if you had a strong nation on the continent of Africa, like I'll tell you this way, white folk, I give this example all the time, but white people would say, white people would talk among themselves, white person to white person, say, you should go teach English in China. The Chinese are paying a lot of good money to learn, for teachers to teach English in China. You understand?
Understood.
So everybody understands economic migration. When you have a strong economy in Africa, you can tell black Americans, hey, there's a good job, and you could just teach English. Obviously we don't really care for English, but there's a good job, or you could teach whatever. You could teach engineering, you could teach math, whatever it is. You could teach math in Africa for more money than you're making in America.
So my question to you is, well, for one, it sounds like your concept is similar to that of Haile Selassie, where he was trying to industrialize, I believe it was Ethiopia, and bring it into the capitalistic era. And you want to empower Africa in that way, empowering the economic stance of Africa, correct?
Well, I didn't use the word capitalism, but if of course I want to empower Africa. Yes. I would say that yes, I do want to empower Africa.
I say capitalistic mindset because when Haile Selassie was moving, he was trying to build airlines, he was trying to build tourist setups, he was trying to build a country that brings people to it, as you were describing. I see nothing wrong with that. The thing that I'm saying is, some people are already here in America.
Okay.
And for them to leave to Africa, to a country who might give them money, because as up to my research as of yet, I haven't found an African country that will grant us citizenship immediately, give us land and property and that things of that nature. So we are still going to a different country to still build an economic stance, and we may not have anybody already there to help us through that. So I seen something about a Mzungu price. Somebody had said, I was watching somebody that mentioned the Mzungu price is what you get in Africa if you're not actually from Africa. You're not a part of their culture, and not trying to say it as if everybody in Africa is going to treat you that way. But you still have things to watch out for, and you still have hurdles to climb, which, as you say, in your familiar environment, it would be a little bit easier to make it through them hurdles, take shots, duck, move. I believe some of us have been culturalized in America. This is where we are. People don't speak the African language. We don't know the African culture, how they carry themselves. That is a whole nother mindset we have to learn. We have to learn all of their laws and all their rules. Just like here in America, we got to get business license and all kind of other things to set up for whatever we want to accomplish. In Africa, you got to follow their procedures and find out how to do it there. Not saying that it's something we shouldn't do. I'm just saying that it's not as simple, again, as you say it is. So with two difficult tasks, why can't we have a group in America trying to attempt to accomplish a difficult task, and maybe a few in Africa attempting to accomplish a difficult task, and then we connect? So once y'all repatriate and build what you're trying to build, now we actually have a business who is going to be willing to possibly send us materials and things of that nature.
All right, there's
here
two
in
things.
America.
Two things. Well, first thing, I want to say this. I want to say that we make, there's this proverb that goes that everybody is rich in excuses to safeguard their, instincts, their prejudices, so on and so forth. The reality is this, that even if here's how I say, economic migration is a reality. Okay? People migrate for economic reasons all the time. And I could say it this way. New York City, this is where I live. I live in New York City, right? Is expensive. I want to give an example. Let's say real estate, right? Real estate in New York City is expensive, right? Let's say it's not as expensive in what's a state with less expenses?
I mean, honestly, I could give you an example in Africa. Ghana is a
no. I'm talking about in America. In America, which one of these states?
But I'm just talking about economic migration.
No,
happening.
I want to finish this point on.
Okay. Let's talk about Baltimore. Baltimore is trying to rebuild right
now. All right, Baltimore has, let's say Baltimore has cheap real estate. I would have to go to Baltimore and learn its laws. Maybe learn the lingo, the language. I mean, although I kind of already have that language, sure. But I'd have to go to Baltimore, learn its language. I'd have to move from where I'm already at, and all of that just to do business in Baltimore, right? So the question of, we have to move and blah, blah. But the difference being, of course, that the real estate in Baltimore is much more expensive than the real estate in what you were going to say, Ghana. So the idea that, learning laws and learning customs and learning whatever is an impediment to true business ventures, that's not the case. Now, on the other hand, though, when you said that black people, what was it? The other hand, you said black people. What was the second point you made again?
About moving to Africa.
Moving to Africa, something. Oh yeah, why can't we just do this stuff in America? The thing is that, well, I mean, there's a lot to America, but one of the things is that when you don't have national sovereignty, okay, and this is the trouble right here in America. When you don't have national sovereignty, you do not control what is imported or exported. You understand? And when you don't control what is imported or exported, then you like when you don't have that border control, you then run into a whole lot more issues than it's worth. This comes into the territory of tariffs. This comes into the territory of port taxes and so on and so forth. But it would behoove you to truly try to be an international international economy without having any control over what is imported and exported. And I think the example, I think I might have actually learned it from Claude Anderson, matter of fact, but it could have been somebody else. But the thing that like the Asians here, the reason why the Asians have control over the here market, particularly the Koreans, is because America has a deal with the Koreans in order to import from them. And so even China can't penetrate the hair market, the black hair market. Even Russia can't penetrate the black hair market. Even India, where the hair comes from, can't penetrate the hair market because America made the deal with Korea, right? Now that deal goes back up to the federal government, right? And the thing is that the federal government is only friendly to the black cause every 8 years or something. You know what I'm saying? like every once in a while, whenever there's like a quote unquote. Well, I mean, it's like technically, because some people it's never friendly, but it would not be hard. It would not be difficult for America to say, you know what, we're not going to import from this African nation anymore. Or we're not going to allow you to export to this African nation anymore. Or we are having an embargo on this African nation abroad. And now because we have this embargo on this African nation abroad, all that business that you thought you were going to do with that country no longer exists. And then not just that, but when you can't control the import-export, and you can't, but when you can't control it, that's when you come into this situation of, yeah, you know what, realistically speaking, you would be wasting your time in America. It's not the same as working in a place that has political sovereignty versus a place that doesn't. It's just not the same.
Understood. I see your point of frame and all that. I just believe, again, everybody repatriating to Africa is just gonna make Africa a pool of competition. It's not gonna necessarily allow us to expand our power as a world power. It would just be an inward power. Everything would be within, and then eventually we would still have to, if we wished to expand. Again, that is, if we wish to expand. If staying in Africa for the rest of your life is where it's at, that's understandable. You know what I mean? I heard it's a beautiful continent. I want to go one day. But I'm looking in the aspect of expansion in my mind. If we make Africa strong, after we make Africa strong, I still want to expand communities in other countries to continue to build that power.
Most certainly, bro. I want to say this. Also, I think Sandra Jones asked a question. I want to say this. We don't want everybody in Africa. You don't want everybody in Africa. My
hold on 1 second, please. If we don't want everybody in Africa,
no.
What are the people who are not in Africa doing, and where are they at?
The people who are not in Africa that want to do something positive for African people need to go to Africa. That's it. Okay. But basically, it's like this. Let me say it this way. All right, let's say comic books. Let's go to comic books, right? Let's say there's a tragedy going on. All right, let's say we're gonna go. I don't know. I don't really know black comic books like that. I'm just gonna use the example of Superman. Okay. Forgive me. All right. All right. Let's say we'll use Black Panther. Although it's still not a black comic book. We'll use Black Panther, right? There's something going on at let's say the nuclear power plant. You know what I'm saying? There's something going on with the nuclear power plant. We need to go do something about the nuclear power plant. I don't know why that's so funny, but all right. Look.
Understood.
Look, Brian. So here's the thing. Black Panther, the people that got to go to the nuclear power plant is Black Panther and his crew. You know what I'm saying? It's not, it's not everybody and their mama got to go to the nuclear power plant and go figure stuff out. You know what I'm saying? It's just the people who are trying to be the pioneers, trying to be the heroes, trying to be the nation builders. Those are the people that need to go to where the disaster is at. You understand?
Okay.
So it's like the people who are not going to the disaster, they're still going to get saved if the people going to the disaster site are going to the disaster site. The only thing is that you don't need them in your way. You know what I'm saying? I don't need people in my way when I'm in Africa. You know? I don't need like I got a lot of haters. I don't need none of my haters when I'm in Africa. You know what I'm saying? They can all stay in America and no, they ain't gonna get saved. We already know that. But everybody else, but most people in America gonna be saved when we got our stuff going on. I wanna bring up a question Sandra Jones asked in the YouTube. She said, so why can't we build an economy base here first in US and then start a base in Africa with the financial states we earn from US to help Africa? I don't know, is that a different question from what I answered before? Or is that the same question?
Well, I can try to let's try to look at it a different way. Let's say we are not building a international import-export, because as you pointed out, if US shuts it down, we can't do that. Let's say we build a group of businesses that support efforts in Africa. So we build our businesses here. We use our money to then donate or build up businesses in Africa with those soldiers who want to go to Africa to save it and be in the disaster. So for the people who stay back, we can, shoot a little donation across the water every now and again. To, keep the solidarity.
Well, that's something that I advise people to do. Like if you cannot go to Africa at this moment, I would say just get your bank up. Get your bank account up. And then with your bank account,
say that they need to strengthen their economic standings.
They would, but you can't do it collectively. You have to do it individually. You can't do it collectively. You cannot. Here's the thing with the capitalist system. With the capitalist system, you cannot have a collective raise. Especially from the position that you're at, where you're not a part of the national structure as it is.
You're telling me if a group of, say, 15 families put money together and decided to buy land or decided to buy a chain of businesses and to nurture that business and to build that business, they're not going to be able to practice collectively?
Well, by collective, I meant, when we say, a lot of times we say, look at the group average, like look at the race average. That's what I mean by collective. It's to say that you can as a group get a lot of money, okay? But the idea of lifting black people in America out of poverty, it's just not even practical, because it's not your nation. And if the nation wants black people poor, they will be poor. And if the nation does not want black people to be poor, then they will not be poor. Well, particularly this nation. But the reality is that when it comes to capitalism, it's based off of inequality. So what does that mean? What I mean is that
it's based off of having cheap or free labor, correct? You want the cheapest or the freest labor that you can find. That's what capitalism was built off of.
Well, I'm talking about wealth inequality. The wealth you're not gonna get. You're not like you have to say it this way. I'll say it this way. There are 40 million black people in America, right? Around 40 million, right? The thing with that is that they're not anywhere near each other, So you can technically, as an individual, build up a local area to be economically self-sufficient. Well, not self-sufficient, but you could have some sort of economic independence in America through collective economics.
So let's say we had a city let's say Savannah, Georgia. That's a city. It's not too big. And let's say the majority of that population was black. Let's say 85% of the population is black.
Is that a city?
7% is white, and 3% is Latino.
Gotcha.
In that area, you're saying that we would be able to build some sort of economic, self-sufficient community if we collectively came together and worked. Collectively came together, voted on city and council appointments and things like that. Put people in power we want in power.
Again, to an extent.
Actually build business and build them together.
To an extent. To an extent. No, to an extent.
To an extent.
Let me. I'll go to the RTS game. Let me give you the RTS game. So here's something that I really. So when I was young, I used to play a lot of these war games, right? And one of the most important. All right, I'll go to Black Wall Street. I don't know if you listen to the podcast on Black Wall Street, but here's what happened in Black Wall Street. Okay? Black folk were thriving. They had their own independent, blah, 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 blah. Right? I mean, here's the thing that all of us, when we learn about Black Wall Street, we say, if only we defended ourselves. Right? If only we defended ourselves. Right? That's everything that everybody says. Well, Black Wall Street...
It was kind of hard to defend themselves.
You can't defend yourself.
I'm sorry.
Look, bro, you can't defend yourself in America. Because what you need, what you need to defend yourself would be a military, a watchtower. A military turret.
I'm going to shoot.
No, I'm trying to tell you.
I'm going to shoot one more shot at you.
Wait, hold on a second.
One more shot, buddy.
Let me finish this point.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me finish this point. So, the thing with the military turret, right, or the watchtower, is that there's no way you could legally put up a watchtower, right, and not have the feds tell you to take it down. You understand? So
understood.
So but the thing is that if you don't have a watchtower, if you don't have, or like, there's no way you could put up a gate. You know, just a gate to just enclose your community, right? There's no way you could put up a gate and that at a watchtower and shoot anybody who intrudes. You can't do that without the feds telling you to take it down. And because you can't do that, you cannot defend your community. Because if you don't have a gate, if you don't have a watchtower, then you have nowhere to defend yourself outside of guerrilla warfare, and they could just burn down your little city.
So you're saying that we would need military to defend ourselves in America?
Exactly.
If we was to build a community that way.
Huh? Not just the military, but you have to have real life, what people use in real militaries, which is like an encampment. If you don't have an encampment, if you don't have gates and fences and walls and watchtowers and anti-aircraft missiles, if you don't have any of that stuff, then you're just a sitting duck.
Okay. Well, if we go to Africa, we don't have control of their military either, so we still are without a military.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're African. You know what I'm saying? The difference is that you are an African.
We don't have to worry about their military blowing us up, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, look, it depends on where you go, okay, and what you're there for. You understand? I would not advise somebody go to, the local dictator and say, we're going to dethrone you, blah, blah, blah. If you are, wherever you go, I would advise you be a little bit more diplomatic. And you say, look, we're here to assist you in your blah, blah, blah. We assist you in the economy. And real talk, if you're going to do any of that other stuff, you want to do it outside of your country. Outside the country that you adopted. That's what I would say, out loud. So as I say that, let's say if you believe, let's say you go to the Gambia, you're not there to try to undo the Gambia, but you're trying to do maybe you might do something to its neighbors, but you're not necessarily doing something to the Gambia itself, if that's where you are, If you're in Lesotho, same thing. You just, you build up the economy there. And the reality is this, that when you build up the economy somewhere, you become a prize citizen. They give you the citizenship. Now, a lot of times you might say, hey, they're not going to give you citizenship. No, they're not going to give citizenship to to somebody who just showed up. Somebody just showed up at their doorstep and they're going to give you, no, they're not going to, citizenship is a really important thing.
So what is building the economy entail? Like, how much money, how many buildings do I have to build, how many streets, roads, what do I have to donate? What is building the economy entail? Like, what's the stopping point?
Well, there's no stopping point. Hold on a second.
No,
Whatever you were trying to do.
I'm saying, as far as me, if I want to go over to Africa and build their economy to the point where they give me citizenship, what is my goal? What am I reaching for? Of course, after I get my citizenship, I'm going to continue to excel.
Exactly.
But what I'm asking is, where is it? Like, are you going to say, okay, I brought $100,000 into your city or country, I got a citizenship.
That's what I'm saying. Well, first off, look, I'll say it this way. Bill Gates wanted citizenship in Lesotho. He probably could get it. You understand? I'm not saying that you're gonna get Bill Gates wealth or nothing, but reason why I bring that up is to say that, you know, like, people have greasy palms all the time. You know what I mean?
But you said Bill Gates, bro. Bill Gates is on the Forbes list, boss. So that could mean that it's in between billions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No. Here's what I'm trying. Well, I want you to understand that, you know, here's the thing that I want to say. There's no. If you're working towards getting citizenship, then obviously you would just work until you get citizenship. But the you know, that's like the simple answer. The more relevant answer is that when you talk about economy building, you're talking about, like, actually providing to another community, to an excellent extent. And if you're doing that, then you're probably employing people. You know, you probably have a handful of employees. And because you have a handful of employees, and not just a handful of employees, but, like, let's say if you have 100 people who are eating well because of your let's say our group activity, right? Then yeah, we'll probably get citizenship from that. You know, I'll give an example, because I was listening to this lecture. I think Obadale Kambon and there was a sister there. The sister was really the person I wanted to highlight, because she was discussing, I think, her experience in the Gambia, and how there was this guy, like a Cuban guy, who, like, he's not, I don't think he's black, right? But he had a mango canning factory. Okay, so like the people in Gambia grow mango easy, but he was able, like, he had like a whole factory to can it, you know. And of course, you know, factories should tip off your head, you know, that's a bourgeoisie, right? But the reality is that because he had this thing, like, he was contributing to, like, maybe 2% of the Gambian economy. I'm not 100% sure it's the Gambia, but I want to say 2%. That, yeah, like 1%, 2%. But of course, the Gambian economy, the Gambian budget is small.
So he was contributing to 2% to a whole country's economy.
It's a small economy.
I understand it is an African country. Not trying to say that it's the amount is, you know, way out of this world.
Yeah.
But 2% of a whole economy is not a light feat for a single individual.
No. But the thing is that I don't think he has citizenship, but I think if he wanted citizenship, he could ask for it. You understand? So the reality is that and I'm not saying that I'm giving you an example. I'm giving you a real life example. You know?
Understood.
I'm not saying that because the thing is that there's Abadale Kambon got citizenship in Ghana, and I don't think he contributes much to the economy. You know what I mean? Like, and not just that, Ludacris got citizenship in a whole other country, and I'm pretty certain he doesn't do anything for that country. But so it's not to say that you need to do something. I'm saying that as we as the entrepreneurial Africans should look at gaining citizenship through the merit, through our own works. A lot of people do not gain citizenship from their works, but they get citizenship anyway. But I'm saying that you can.
So
I'm saying that yes, go to Africa.
That's just a feat to accomplish.
I'm saying that's what you should go to Africa for. Not even for citizenship, but to contribute to the larger economy. Absolutely. You know? And the thing is this, too. I want to say this, that even if you do that in America, like, even if you did that in America, you would be well received. Like, if you did something amazing in America, you would be well received. Anywhere you go on this planet, if you do something amazing there, you will be well received. You know? And the example I give is, I think it's Marva Collins. Yeah, Marva Collins was... I don't know if you heard of Marva Collins. Have you heard of her?
No, sir, I have not.
All right, Marva Collins is considered one of the best teachers, you know, in modern history, if you will, right? And she's a African American woman, if you will, or, you know, she's a black woman in America, and she made like a little school where all the kids excelled, and these were like kids who were considered learning disabled, right? Even Ronald Reagan, okay? So this is like a Republican who some people would say allegedly hate black folk, and even did the like promoted the war on drugs and all that, just to whatever. He nominated Collins to be the Secretary of Education of America, but she turned it down. Okay? So what I'm saying is that if you do something excellent in Africa, right, then you could possibly become the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Finances, the Secretary of so on and so forth. And that's what you have to aim for, because you want to get that political power so that there's no excuse for, we don't have blah, blah. And then with that political power, you can use that to benefit Africans all over the world, even the ones outside of your country, including America, but not exclusively.
With that same mindset, because I'm with you. Again, I see nothing wrong with repatriating to Africa and building that economy. I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just believe if you do not choose to go to Africa, you can't sit with idle hands. Now,
I don't think so, but I would say that I would say with that, yeah, like what Sandra Jones said, you just build up your economy, and then you quote unquote pay, you quote unquote finance those who are the pioneers.
Exactly. But in order to accomplish that, we still need to look into practicing unity and group economics.
Yeah.
In order to do that, because again, remember, like you said, we're the minority, so we have to come together in some sense. And that is pretty much the basis of Powernomics. We got to come together in some sense to build together. Now, granted, I understand where you're coming from. There are very much heavy limitations planted on us because we are not the head of this nation and we don't have control within this nation, but for so much, but just to kill a fly just about. Regardless, again, we can't sit with idle hands. That is, I believe, Powernomics, for one, can be applied in Africa just as it can be applied in America. It can be applied in Europe, South America, London, wherever we have enough black people to build an economic community, Powernomics could be applied.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the reason why I said Powernomics cannot work in Black America. I'm not too familiar with Powernomics per se, but if it's a widespread, here's the trouble with the concept of, our people just need to have discipline, our people need to blah, 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 if we did so on and so forth. When we say that, the reality is that you are outside, you don't have an independent educational system. And without an independent educational system, a lot of the programming that would be required, right, to do what you want to do is missing. And unless you and then basically you're going to have to deal with broken adults instead of as the quote goes, like just ready children, so the discipline that we would need is just not going to be present. Sorry, it's not going to be present anywhere if you want it on a widespread case,
that's the same for going back to Africa. I mean, you can get up and say I want to repatriate to Africa, but if you don't have the self-discipline to get out there and do what it actually takes to build a successful business, then you're just out there floundering around. Just like anywhere
a lot
else.
of people are floundering. So that's why I say, that's why I give people the books to read. I give them the books to read, and then from that, that equips them with the knowledge that we would want. Because we don't have the independent educational institutions, I can only give you the books. But the books will then say, look, when we go to Africa, one of the main things we want to do is build those educational institutions. And again, you can build those educational institutions in America, but the main part of the educational institution is to send the people to Africa. You understand? So I do say, if you cannot repatriate, then just build the what I call is Boko Waset Nakeru, right? And what Boko means is that you would build a community center to send people to Waset, okay? And I'm saying it kind of advanced, but let's say it this way. Every people have a tertiary educational institution, right, of higher learning in their race, right? So you have, so I mean, one time somebody told me that the seats of power in America are Harvard and Yale, okay? And somebody else told me that, and then I think the same person, and this was Alton Maddox, the attorney at war, so he's a good person. I was in his organization at one point, so that's why he told us this. But anyway, the other place, like, then you go to England and you have Oxford and Cambridge, so every people have what is this, and it's based off of an older model, basically in Africa, which is called Waset. Waset means the city of power. And if you look at, this is ancient Egypt, obviously ancient Kemet, and Waset is considered the city of power. But when you look at what Waset was, it seems like it was a university town, a place of higher learning, right? So what we would do in Africa is we would build this Waset. And then so what you would do in America or anywhere on the planet is you would build this Boko in order to send people to this Waset. So you would identify the people who can change things. So like basically if you make a community center, yes, you can definitely improve the economy of your local community. That's what every people do. They build a community center and then they could improve their economy locally. But if you're trying to improve the whole race, you need people to go to Africa and use the traditional African wisdom or the wisdom that we infuse in them. Let me give you let me give you 2 seconds. Let me read the comments. The people are commenting. So
hold on, you got it.
All right, so let's see. So Rastafari, Hotep, and he said, let's continue what Garvey started. Sandra says, Miami is an example of the Hispanic population, and she agrees with Rastafari. Garvey's solution is very valid today. That's what somebody else said. Arthur Zora said, great point about the reward for excellence. That's really important. And so Sandra said, I feel like it would be easier to go to in Africa if we have financial power, and that's absolutely the case. Definitely build up your financial power in Africa. I mean, in the diaspora. Nsandu says that is not easy and neither practical. I don't think you can go to any African country and be given positions in government as an American. Now, I don't really know any examples off the top of my head, but I'm fairly certain that there are several black people, like people from Africa, people from the diaspora who have gotten into government. Because
I agree with you actually on that same point. I do believe there have been people from the diaspora to go to Africa. Now, as far as recently, I couldn't speak on.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, as a matter of fact, wasn't Du Bois? Du Bois was like advisor to Nkrumah. So it's not like you can't achieve in the diaspora and then become accomplished in Africa. But I did say nothing is easy. Jabril said the goal should be repatriation to Africa, and I said, but yeah, people from America do ascend, blah blah. So Althazor, good brother, he says, should we be asking which part can be applied rather than saying it can't work? He's like, what part of Powernomics can be applied as saying it can't work? But that's interesting. It's valid. He says education. I'm glad that was my focus in the beginning. Disappointed at my lack of progress. So you must have an African mind, not just body. Great point. I'm just gonna finish these comments quickly. Building America in Africa is easier than building Africa in America. Yeah, that's true. Building America in Africa. What does that mean? Peace, family. Oh, Bit of Medicine's here. I know brother was just doing his podcast, so Hotep brother. And let's see, building a civilization with African-centered apparatuses, proceeding in the framework that foster wealth, community, and and spirit. All right, so thanks family for the comments. Make sure you got some more likes. Yeah, what were you saying? Sorry, brother.
I was just saying, as far as the parts that we can apply economic building. It does definitely take organizing, planning. We have to build our own think tanks. We have to start thinking long term with our goals and our plans. And I also believe that should be the same with repatriating to Africa. We should also have think tanks in order to get us there, in order to keep us stable here before we go and things like that. I just feel we can't leave unless we are stable enough to do so.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I want to say this. So the image you gave was of this vertical building of basically the matter of fact, we could actually pull up the passage if you want to. We can pull up the passage. So I'm going to cause I left the thread in this video, right?
I mean, here's the thing. I want to say this. So
all right. So I left this thread. So we can look at what you linked, which is this stuff. So I'm gonna open up this in the. Wait, should I screen share or should I just? Well, you already know it from the head, so from your head. So I'm just gonna open it up here. So I'll read it. So you don't mind if I read it, right? For the people at home?
No, I don't mind.
So it says businesses required on each level of the overall business structure from manufacturing to retailing. Okay, yeah. Manufacturing to retailing is a lot that white people like here's the thing with every nation is that what we go back to it. Every nation gives you a license to do business and you have to renew that license. You know? So if you are doing business in a way that the nation doesn't approve of, right, which might be if you're practicing discrimination per se, right, then they can take away your business license. Not like even when it came to like this coronavirus thing, right? There was this bar that didn't want to wear masks, and so like they didn't want to put any masks on their on their customers or anything, or demanded or whatever, and so America took away their business license. You know, like the state took away his business license. So the question becomes, if you're doing something that's radical and revolutionary, right, on American soil, where you have to, also get approved license for them, yeah, you're gonna get screwed over. You know, and the example I know is that when I went to the UNIA, they have this thing called the Garvey Center. It's closed now, but in Brooklyn there was like this place called the Garvey Center. And at one point, the dude was just running his business, and I think he just sells like candles and trinkets and that kind of stuff. Like it wasn't even like a real business as far as I can tell, right? But like he sold like sages and herbs and all that stuff, like herbs that he got from like the Caribbean islands and so forth, right? Firefighters came inside, and they said, okay, we did an examination, and this actually happened in Marvin Collins too. They said, okay, we did an examination, and you're not up to the fire code, right? And then the guy said, oh, and then they said, oh, but what do you sell here? And he was like, and what do you do here anyway? Before we close, we're gonna close down your business, but what do you do here? And he's like, well, I sell these sages, they're good for this, they're good for that, and I sell these herbs, they're good for this, good for that, right? And they said, oh, really? Well, I'd like some, right? And then I guess, I don't know if he sold it to them or he gave it to them, but then they allowed him to keep his store open.
Because they appreciate what he was selling.
No, because they corrupt. Like the reality is that they can close the government, they can close your business whenever they want. Right? I think he wasn't. Well, I think they were closing it because they figured it was racist. It had Garvey's name on it. Figured it was racist. But they said, oh, well, he doesn't seem like that kind of guy. So we'll leave it open. But that's what you're facing in any nation you go to. Not just America, but any nation. Yeah.
I understand the point. I get where you're coming from, but you're speaking as if we have to blatantly be revolutionary with a business. For example, I know a few people who actually own a little bit of land, enough land to build a farm with.
I feel you.
CBD is something that is becoming legal throughout the United States, where
marijuana?
You can actually,
There's marijuana? Is that what you're talking about?
CBD, yes, sir.
Wait, let me
In certain states, you can apply to grow that CBD on your land and farm CBD because it's legal, and pretty much everywhere in the United States right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With that being said, I'm saying that if individuals came together to build that business and build that situation, and also had the mindset to stay connected with the rest of the community, we can still build in America. We can still build economic power. We can still build, as you pointed out, in a city where we own a majority of the population. there's possibilities. We just have to look at things in a different way. We can't just say, okay, this here is a block, this here is a block, this here is a block. Unless you're going to tell me that I cannot go start a business because America won't let me, then it's nothing that's stopping me. I can go start that business. And then I have to deal with what comes next. If they do come in attacking me, then I got to deal with that. But I can start a basic CBD farming business, find somebody else to come in with me, and then as we build that power, we expand that power. Whether it be sending money to Africa or hoping to build someone else in a small city somewhere in America. My point is we must organize and start planning as opposed to either waiting for reparations or waiting for, you know what I mean, some organization to come and sweep us off our feet. We have to start building these institutions ourselves.
I'm not waiting for reparations. But here's the thing, though. I want to say,
yes, sir, understood.
I want to say, the trouble is that you're talking about small businesses. You're talking about tiny business. You're not talking about owning of black people collectively. Radical black people collectively owning a portion of America's wealth. You're talking about
at this point in time. At this point in time, currently 95, there's like 90% that is permanently locked. So it's a portion of America is very small at owning. If we can get 2%, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't even have 1%.
White folk ain't looking for you. Like here's the thing. You talking about warehouse, wholesale. You're talking about truckers, dealers. All of that coordinated. Black, right? And you think white boy is not gonna notice that black folk is on their stuff, and not
as
just on their stuff.
You said, they're all small businesses. We're just a collective of small businesses working together.
Yeah, that's nothing though. Because the thing is that, like I said, that's what I'm saying. You're getting little reward.
I'm sorry to cut you off. You got me. You right. I am a little rude. Keep going, boss.
Wait, I never said you were rude.
I thought you did. My bad. I felt the rudeness in it. I'm geek right now. I just got some words. But you know what I mean. You go ahead and finish it off.
I ain't calling you rude, bro. But here's what I would say though is that you let me tell these people. Somebody said screen share. I'm gonna tell them that you can click the link. Click the link in the description. All right. The reason why I want to, the reason why I'm saying is that you'd have to be pretty. All right. I'll give an example. So one time, I really want to see this. I want you guys to look at the. I don't know if you heard about the RBG. Were you there at the RBG conference? Or did you catch it by chance?
A little bit.
Okay, yeah. So at the RBG conference, there was this brother who was talking about how they were doing like self-defense training and all that kind of stuff, and they were like boxing and they were like, and he had his own rifle and all that stuff, right? Would you believe that he also shared that the feds knocked on his door one day and said, "We heard you were having illegal boxing competitions in your backyard." Okay, so. He's not having illegal boxing. They're just sparring with each other, every whatever, regularly, right? And the feds are on him, just a little individual, right? If the feds are on this little individual, one individual, right? What makes you think that somehow you can hide your activities from them, or your intentions from them? And when they find out what your intentions are, I can tell you about, because like right here, Altazor's bringing up educators, Pan-African educators, so on and so forth. There's this sister here in Brooklyn who was teaching black students, self-love, self-respect. Okay, she's teaching them self-love, self-respect. At some days she misses work, and like a substitute teacher comes in, right? And I think it's like a English class maybe, and they're supposed to be playing a play. So the substitute's like a Jew man or just a white guy, whatever, right? And the white guy says, here's a play that I want you guys to do, right? And the black youth who's taught self-love and self-respect says, I'm not going to do that. That's degrading to black folk, right? As soon as he said this, right? The teacher was called in. What are you teaching these kids? And she was fired. Can't get a job again.
What? And that was at
in Brooklyn.
White school, I'm assuming?
No. She can't get a job anywhere.
No. But I'm asking.
Was it a white school? No, she was teaching black kids.
In a black school, a black-owned school, we don't have.
Probably not a black-owned school. Probably not a black-owned school, but you know, the thing I'm saying or the thing I'm communicating is that, like, even if you say, oh, okay, we'll do it a black-owned school, you understand that if you're doing a black-owned school and you get any federal funding, they're in there. You understand? The feds is in there. The feds is checking the curriculum. The feds is evaluating the students. You got to be pretty damn good. And I can even say this: there was a black school, there's an independent black school in Brooklyn, right? The sister was running a good place, a good spot. One of the kids, and unfortunately, and here's the thing with the black community is that I seen the girl afterward, and she's just accepted in open arms afterward. But this sister, she's running the school. Then this little girl accuses her of sexual abuse. I can't even say what. I mean, I'm asking around because I'm new to the organization, so I'm like, what's that about? Blah blah blah. Can anybody tell me? And they're like, shh, hush, hush, But the thing is that the school then declined. The newspapers ran a whole story, took interviews. The grandmother, some people say the grandmother got paid. Okay, the thing, and even like this morning, I came onto I was over my email, and somebody said because I put up a video on Amos Wilson and them, and Elijah and all the other people, they put up a video and they said, no, matter of fact, since I put up a video on Nearly Fuller Jr., they said, well, the feds got a whole category for you called Black Identity Extremists, and they're gonna arrest you, and it's gonna be a laugh. I'm gonna laugh when they put you in prison. That's a black person telling me that. You understand? So the reality is not only do you have a lot of people who will do you in America, and I'm not saying you don't have that in Africa. I'm saying that you have a lot of people who will do you in, and on top of wanting to do you in, right, there's a state that wants to do worse to you. That made it illegal for you to be a black identity extremist. And what that means is that just being about your black identity. It makes it illegal to want to defend yourself.
I know exactly what it means.
Look.
It makes it illegal for us to say we support black and black on black on black on black. It makes it illegal
to want to defend yourself.
I understand exactly what it is.
To want to defend yourself. Do you want to defend yourself? That's illegal. Don't even say it. You understand? Now, how you gonna run a whole vertical integration? Because the thing is this, I want you to understand this too. I want you to understand this. This is basic. This is common sense. Business is regularly violent. You understand? I'm talking about, like, if you take a black people out of the equation, you got one white person, you got Italians on one side of the street got a bakery, and then you got Germans on the other side of the street that got a bakery, right? Same street, they going out brawling every once in a while. This is regular. Right? You can even do it with the Italians. If the Italians on one side, another Italian family comes up, they brawling from the bakery. So business is regularly violent. In fact, I know that even major corporations like major businesses like Con Edison, if you lay on your bills or whatever, they could send goons after you. Con Edison. And this is America.
They could send goons after you.
I'm just saying. You understand? So the whole thing is that you're dealing with, if it's illegal for you to defend yourself, to organize and defend yourself, and they could jail you for that. But if you're not defending yourself, they're gonna throw you out physically. Then yeah, I mean you could get some wealth. You could get, like you said, a little small stuff and whatever. But focus on the goal, because you're not gonna get. If you want to be like the next Wall, if you think you're gonna be Walmart, If you think you're gonna be Walmart and Walmart's gonna sit back, or you think you're gonna be Amazon and Amazon's gonna sit back?
We don't need to be Walmart. That's my point that I'm trying to make.
No, hold on a second. That might be the point you're making, but on the thing you cited, right? He's talking about vertical integration. He's talking about owning everything, blah 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 blah. If you that big,
mean, bro, if you that integration big, could be, let's use music. Let's make it easy and use music. The raw product is the person who makes the music, correct? The person who makes the music, your producer, is the person who records everything, lays everything down, and then you gotta have somebody who's gonna produce it. Then you gotta have your CDs or however where they're gonna stream it. My point being is that can be a small knit, close knit unit of people that are working with a goal in mind to improve. Understand what I'm saying? I get what you're saying. Walmart, yes, I agree fully. Walmart, we're not going to be able to hit because too many things in America have already been snatched up and locked down. But we still can build small. And as we build small and start recirculating dollars, it shall allow us to build more. Think about it like this. If we start a community in a small city, correct? Mm-hmm. Say we start out with 2 or 3 businesses that's actually starting to flourish and starting to build. Over a time of 10 or 20 years, how many more businesses do you think we can bring about within that community that are still small businesses and being supplied by whatever we need out there?
I want to say this. The real money. I'll give you the story that I one time published it on my website.
But it's not about real money. It's about our own money. Feel what I'm saying? It's not about real money. Yeah. It's about our own money. Because then we can take that money and spend it how we want, do what we need to do with it, as opposed to just going to this job to benefit some other employer that's not going to help the community.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you know the law of Western society though? I'm gonna break this out. So check this out, everybody.
I'm not familiar with the law of Western society.
The law of Western society. So this is pretty interesting. This is I reprinted this in the Book of Power. Let me see if I can share you guys. Well, let me first find the page before I look through too many things. What's the name of this brother? See, I gotta find this thing. How do I find this? Let me see if I can find this. There's this brother. He's gonna tell you that the law of Western, the law of Western economics, something like that. What's his name? Let me see. I'm gonna try to search my book to see if I can find it, because he was talking about how maybe communalism is the word. Let me see. I'm just trying to find this quote in my book. All right, just give me a little bit of time. It should be pretty fast. You know, sometimes you write a big book. What's the name of the brother who he was in Africa? He's like considered the person who inspired Pan-Africanism.
Kwame.
No, like
Kwame,
way back.
John Henry Clark. Oh, way back.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you way back. I just got John Henry Clark right now.
Nah, John Henry Clark is a new. John Henry Clark, new on the scene. It's one of these books. He's the one who promoted Islam, like way back. Yeah.
Elijah Muhammad.
Bro, wait.
Well, I guess that's just the nation.
Years, I'm talking like 100 years. 100, 200 years. I'm gonna look at my book.
I'm nowhere near where you was at, boss man. Nah, man, I don't got it. I couldn't tell you.
Hold on a second.
Everything I'm saying is just a guess anyway.
Yeah, I'm not giving good clues. Oh, here, Edward Blyden. I think it's Blyden. Let me see if I can find it. Blyden. Because I think this is one of the most, Edward Wilmot Blyden. So the law, alright, so good. The law of disintegration. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. You probably can't see it because it's, unless you, no, I'm not going to screen share because I know you, it's loud. But alright, so you said, So Edward Wilmot Blyden says the law of disintegration under the Eurasian competitive order. So this is obviously in the Book of Power on page 133. And here's what he's saying. Because this is actually one of the most important things I like. Because he's telling you, he's observing, this is one of the original Pan-Africanists, if you will. Right? He writes this in 1908. And he's going to tell you about, socialism and all that, or cooperativism or whatever you want to call it in Africa. But one of the most important things he says here, he says, our natives, all right, so he's talking about in Africa, okay? Let's see if we can, let's just go to, because it's going to be the end of this paragraph, but I'll start off from the beginning just to give you guys the whole context. So he says, the whole of the surplus wealth accumulated under our native system by cooperative labor is regularly and in a most orderly manner subdivided among all the people cooperating, right? Unto each according to his several ability, right? So he says those whose efforts are worth more receive proportionately a greater share of the surplus, right? So he's talking about like what would be considered like, ancient African or like classical African socialism, right? So he says the internal wars of the African have been largely in defense of his social institutions, resisting men of his own tribe anxious to aggrandize themselves at the expense of the people. His wars against Europeans have also been in defense of his institutions, which he regards as sacred. Our natives who have accumulated money under the individualistic system of Europe cannot go back to their tribal home because their wealth would be subjected to distribution according to native custom and law. And in view of their training, it is impossible for them to submit now to such an arrangement. Therefore, they continue to live under the European order and are amenable to its vicissitudes. All their wealth, sooner or later, goes back to the European, in spite of the most stringent provisions of wills and codicils. Men may doubt this, object to it, hate it, and think that their case will be an exception to the rule. But the law goes on all the same. It is not a rule, but a law. The law of disintegration under the European competitive order. So what he's saying, in short, is that all the wealth you get when you're in the West goes back to the West. And everybody knows it's true.
How is that possible? If I accumulated, let's say I accumulated $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. Now, from that $1 million, I have to give so much in taxes. If I got businesses, property taxes, yada yada yada. After I've spent my money, let's say I got $700,000 left. That's mine.
Okay. And
if I chose to take that 700,000 and send it somewhere in Africa and build a village or something like that, how could they stop me?
That's the only way that you could what's his face? That you can get it. That's the only way that you would not go back to the West. But if you do not send it, then it's going to go back to the white man.
Well, of course, we like you said, there's definitely black people in Africa, black people in America that don't give a daggone about, melanin and all that stuff like that. And of course, they're going to stick with the European system. What we need is an organization of those who are willing to help build Africa. If we have a team in Africa and a team in America, I believe things could be built. We can organize things. We can help. Some people in America can help fund things in Africa.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can only. Well, that's the thing. That's the difference, though. When you read what you showed with the Powernomics, you will see that it's like you have to be African-centered, Africa-centered. You have to be centered on Africa if you're really trying to advance black people. But if you're not centered on Africa, and that's what Powernomics is. Powernomics is not really centered on Africa. Right?
Powernomics is centered on the people that are in America, giving us something that we need to be trying to accomplish. Yeah. Regardless to whether we can go to Africa or not, we should still be focused on coming together, building that unity, and building these businesses. Now, if that leads us to the ability to repatriate, perfect. But the idea is for us to come together and organize.
Yeah. Again, you can do that. Like I said, in my book, I talk about community centers. Community centers are something that you can do. If you can get a community of people to organize around, like having like taxation in a sense, being taxed and using a community treasury in order to build up your businesses, that's perfectly fine. That's doable. The only thing is that is not going to give you any power. Okay. Now, technically, like I guess in your conception, you want to just have businesses and somehow influence politicians. But again, it takes a lot. It would be there's a reason it doesn't work. There's a reason why it didn't work.
It would be a long-term plan. It wouldn't be something that transpires within 10 or 20 years where we have mass power. But after, let's say, we build up the business network and we run it for 50 years in building things in Africa, I believe over that time, what we can accomplish by funding Africa from here in America with the businesses that we build here, and funding those who repatriate, that allows us to build that power over time. Now, you are absolutely 100% correct. It's not going to come to us immediately. It is definitely going to take time and effort. I just believe we have to look more towards a long term rather than a short term. Nothing's going to really be short term that's going to fix what we're going through.
All right, let me say this then. Let's actually go over the. Let me just read through this thing so people can get a context of, because we want to not, like, it's good to be dynamic, but if we want to see what's wrong with Powernomics, we have to look at what Powernomics is saying itself, because if you say, look, we want Powernomics, because the thing is this, I specifically said Powernomics working in America, because, I mean, I don't know what Powernomics is per se, but doing economic practices on the continent is much more viable than it is in America. But let's say the interrelatedness of vertical connection of business establishes a network, protects the business from competitors while guaranteeing an economically empowering flow of wealth via the services and products. Although the size of the black consumer market is limited, that is not necessarily an insurmountable barrier to building businesses. Now, again, if you're looking for, basically you want white patronage is going to if white people get wise on you, and they will, if they're like 80% of your economy, you're screwed. Markets can be expanded to achieve economic scale by exporting products from black communities to surrounding communities. With a strong sense of a national community, a product produced in one black community could be competitively produced for domestic or markets in a black foreign nation. So the people in Africa are just the laborer, essentially. Vertical businesses with black communities could reduce high unemployment and unemployment rates by hiring black people, enhancing their community's tax base, and increasing their group's wealth and disposable income. Previously discusses enough capital. There's enough capital within the black community to support businesses. So that's another thing. Like apparently there's this other book called The Myth of the Black Buying Power, and what it kind of articulates on is essentially the limitations of capitalism and the reality that black people do not have this access to capital that we think we do. But let's keep going. As previously discussed, there is enough capital within so in addition, black businesses would not have to market themselves to blacks only. They simply need to have a solid base of black customers. There's other ethnic and racial groups, so on and so forth. Black leadership, and that's the thing. This is another thing that's really difficult to do. This would be very difficult to do because the trouble with black retail, and I think I put this in my book, but the trouble with black retail, and this is something that I think Malcolm X said it too, but the trouble with black retail is that it's going to be more expensive, So actually, I wanna say, let me finish this, and then I want to jump into my book really quickly, okay? Just to give people the context, all right? So black leadership must find opportunities for black businesses to gain access to raw materials. So I don't see how they're going to gain access to raw materials. If the concept of vertical integration is to be viable, since established white industries have controls on most natural resources and raw materials, blacks should focus their energies on black, African, or third world nations. Africans represent both another market for expansion and a new source of natural resources that could fuel black businesses in America. So again, he wants access to Africa's resources, So he wants to compete with these gigantic white firms for Africa's resources and somehow bring those resources to America, instead of, and the thing is that if you can access the resources of Africa, then why don't you just develop them in Africa, where the labor is also cheaper? You know, it just complicates things. It's just like an extra step where you don't have to import it into the country.
What would you sell in Africa like, would you sell diamonds and gold in Africa? Or would you sell, like, most of, like, Africa's raw material after it's been produced, the product that it's been produced into, every African nation is not heavy consumers of those products. Okay. Now, they do have African nations that buy nice cars, clothes, and cars and things like that. But the reason everything is outsourced out and taken out of Africa is because the most consumeristic nations are America and other European nations.
I mean, it depends on what you mean. But, like, would I sell gold to people in Africa? Probably, because I mean, as far as I understand, the people like essentially bling culture originated in Africa. Well, let's not say it originated in Africa, but it was present in Africa for a long time. You know, so if you really look into like old African, like, images of African people, like, they're decked out in gold.
Yeah, but you're talking about a time when we lived off of the land.
Oh, they're still doing it though. No, they're still doing it today. And not just that, I've heard that, like, when you look at, like, you know, like, let's say hip hop. You say hip hop, right? Because, like, if you're talking about diamonds and gold and all that, you know, I'm thinking about hip hop if you're really talking about the same thing. So if you're talking about that, I would say that apparently, like, when people in America do, like, black people in America do these music videos, and it has all this bling and it has all these cars and whatever, they're, like, renting them, you know? Whereas, like, when people in Africa do these same videos, like, that's literally their cars and their jewelry, you know? So, like, technically they are buying it. Like, they are consumers of the same nonsense. But when you were saying diamond and gold, I was thinking, like, yeah, diamond and gold is a whole other, you know, that's more like bling bling, whatever. But I was more thinking when they said natural resources like coltan and zinc and those sort of things, which could, like, contribute to, like, a technological, or even like iron and copper and steel.
Same difference. I just named the first two that came to mind.
Those I would say that Africa could consume. You know, Africa can consume steel. Like, if you were trying to make modern cities, like compared to Black Americans, I think Africa could consume steel a lot better. Maybe, and then same thing with gold and diamonds. Not too many Black Americans could really afford gold and diamonds, but if they can, if they want to waste it on that, I'm pretty sure there's going to be people in Africa that also want to waste money on gold and diamonds, you know, and not just that, but, like, people in Africa have already, like, I don't think they paid for it. You know, apparently the gold is just plentiful there, but they, like, if you wanted to, like, you probably could trick if you want to say that.
That's my point when I say selling things like that over there. You don't want to sell something in a market where it's plentiful. Why would you sell gold in the market where gold
it would be plentiful locally. So it might be like if it's plentiful in Western Africa, it might not necessarily be plentiful in Central Africa, or it might be not necessarily in Eastern Africa. So,
Understood.
And the thing is that nobody's saying don't sell to people in America. Nobody's saying that. It's more the case of, why are you taking the materials out of Africa and giving it to people who you would have to pay more to process it, and then selling it to the same people who allegedly do not have the money, you know, as opposed to just building it and processing it in Africa and then selling it to the people who, like, to the other people, in that sense.
As you just read, you know what I mean, we can have patrons other than blacks.
Exactly.
It's not. I'm not.
So
I'm not
why would you go
that.
to?
I'm saying just like
why would you have
like
more
in other
expensive
communities?
Employees? That's my question.
They have other patrons.
Exactly.
Black people. So I'm not saying that it has to be like, he's not saying close it off to anybody who isn't black. Mm. He's saying that we need to own our own.
Yeah, of course. But the question is this: why are you
corporation size?
No, what I'm saying is this: if like for instance, somebody else was pointing out on an earlier podcast that there are some people in certain countries, and this is like a non-African country, who they work for, I think, $2 a month. You know, so you can pretty much get them to do anything for $20. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, if they're working for $2 a month, then you can and I'm not saying, you underpay them, so on and so forth, but you could then pay them $20 to do something, like technically skilled or whatever, right? The question becomes, if there are markets where you can technically pay people a lot less, right? Then why are you coming into America where black people are expecting to get paid as much as white people?
Well, I mean, he's not saying for Americans to produce it. He's saying that we get the raw materials from Africa, it's produced in Africa, and the retail is sold in America. That's pretty much the mind state.
Well, what's that have to do with us? What's that have to do with black people in America, though?
Because he's saying he's going to give product to help sell it in our business.
He's saying black communities could reduce high underemployment and unemployment rates by hiring black people. So you're hiring black people in America to what? To just sell the processed goods from Africa, or are you hiring them just to be salesmen?
To be, yes, we're the retail in the vertical part of the business. So Africa would be the raw material and the product and the processing. We would be like the promotion and the retail here in America.
In America, gotcha. All right, let's keep going. Blacks should seek business development relationships with various independent African countries, primarily in terms of securing. Oh, by the way, if anybody's wondering, if anybody's typing right now, I'm gonna check the comments later. It's just that I don't want to click on this window while I'm reading this thing. All right, so blacks should seek business relationships with various independent African countries, primarily in terms of securing competitive control. Control of resources for newly vertically integrated industries. Blacks could then start businesses based upon new valuable resources such as hardwood from Cameroon for a vertical chain of wood milling and furniture manufacture, rubber for an automobile tire company, or diamonds and gold for jewelry and industrial use. So again, the question is, the furniture manufacturing, that would be in Africa, or would it be in America? That's the question. So anyway, black
that would be a stipulation of semantics. We would organize it, sit down, talk about it, and whichever is beneficial. If it's beneficial to do it in Africa, do it in Africa.
Well, the thing is, that's like I said, Africa would have cheaper labor. Africa would have cheaper labor. So technically, but the thing is that if you're trying to have a factory in Africa to do the manufacturing, you would want to be in Africa. You would have to repatriate to do that. But anyway, let's see. Businesses per 1,000 persons on the turn of the century that have today. To turn this around, blacks as a group must employ discipline and cooperation. They must utilize the principles of group economics and group politics to improve the wealth base of black America. There must be an increase in the number and size of black-owned businesses and industries. Currently, white businesses have a lack on natural resources throughout the world. It's important, therefore, that blacks pursue mutually supported business ventures with blacks of other nations, especially resource-rich Africa, which represents the best source for black Americans to secure raw materials for vertical industrial development. A vertical black business structure would include a network of linked businesses from retail and manufacturing to the control of the resources. With the cooperation of government, blacks and black African nations could develop vertical industries. African nations have access to natural resources but lack the professional middle class and surplus disposable capital needed to capitalize on natural resources. Black Americans have a disposable income and a professional middle class but lack access to natural resources. So this is pretty interesting. It's not entirely true, but it's pretty interesting. And this is exactly what I would say, that as an individual, you should, use your surplus capital to, get some stuff in Africa. But again, the idea that black Americans are just, all, equipped to do this, that's not the case, right? So compared to Asian, Hispanic communities, you want to say something?
Well, I mean, I was going to say, you are spot on, everybody isn't, but the idea is to prepare the ones who are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's sometimes, I would say, like what the brother Althazar was saying, what good is there? So this is there, but again, like I said, it's not like black people really have this per se. It's really difficult to find. The thing is that even if black people, the only thing we really have sometimes is excess capital, but so do people in Africa. Sometimes, everybody has a varying rate of excess capital.
Well, to say that black people are so lacking of capital also states that it will be a difficult feat for them to repatriate to Africa, because you can't repatriate without money now.
I didn't say
you gotta have some kind of fund.
I didn't say black people No, I didn't say black people don't have capital. I said black people do have capital. Like a lot of black people do have capital. A lot of black people don't. So the ones who do have capital, those are the ones you'll be talking to in a sense. You know. And the thing is that traveling to Africa is not as expensive as starting a business. You know what I mean? So if you can afford to start a business, you can afford to travel to Africa. Because there's no way you're going to be doing business with Africa, but you can't afford to go to Africa. That doesn't even make any sense. You know what I mean? The trip to Africa is pricey, but doing business with Africa is way more pricey. Like way more pricey. So if anybody has ambition towards doing business with Africa, they have capital. And if they don't have capital, then they shouldn't even talk about it.
We can't exactly. We can't skip steps. If they don't have the capital yet, they have to gain that capital, and to gain that capital, you have to have some sort of business. You're not going to build the capital
you can
working
gain capital
at a job.
You can gain capital working at a job. You can do that, but
at what job?
I mean, any job. You just save your money.
As a person working at a job, that is saying it's all about discipline, right?
All right, let me say it this way. Look, there's ways. Like I said, the community center. If you were doing a community center, you can. Well, the community center that I proposed, the Boko Onitaset Kumat thing, I could even read that too if you guys want. But in that community center, you would set aside 10% of your income, right? Like if you wanted to organize in your community, I would say you get 12 people to set aside 10% of their income, right? Now, here's the thing though. Here's the math. If you have 10%, if you have 10 people setting aside 10% of their income, right? How much money is that? Like, how much money is 10% of 10 people's income? That's
I guess it depends on how much their income is.
Exactly. So
if it's 10% of what, 10,000, what's that? Like
I'll say this:
$100,000, something like that.
Look here, if it's the average of the whole group, okay? So if it's 10 people, it's the average. If it's 30 people, it's 3 times the average, right? So that means that now if you have just 10 people setting aside 10%, you now have an additional income. Everybody's just walking away with 90%, which they can manage because we've been doing that when we were in the church. In the church, we do tithes, and the tithes is 10%, and everybody's managing, right? But now you have a full income, right? Untaxed, just a full income available for one extra person, right? To do everything that everybody else is doing on average, right? And of course, that's only with 10 people. If you have 20 people, if you have 30 people, that's different. But the point being that now with that can afford a lot of things. That can afford because the thing is that the rent for a building, for a business, is much cheaper than a rent for a house or a rent for an apartment. So, or not this much cheaper, but the reality is that if you don't have to feed yourself, you can rent out. 10 people could get a whole storefront. 10 people get a storefront. They can get products to sell. They can do so on and so forth. They can hustle, blah, 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 blah. They can pay for another person. The whole idea is that you can do it if yes, the collective economics works even if you're just working. I mean, like you said, you could make a business. You'd want to make a business if you want to. If you want to, if you don't want to, who cares? But the reality is that it can work regardless, And just to say, 10%.
I understand what you're saying. You're saying as long as you find that group of individuals to invest your money with, even if you're working a job, you can still eventually transfer. Well, of course.
I'll say this. Look, I'll give you an example. Look, I'm going to give you an example because this is an example I actually like. Now, I mean, some people are going to say I don't really like this book, but in Blueprint for Black Power, there is a section where, like, he brings out, I think like a New York Times post or whatever, like a New York Times article. But the article is telling you about how there was this black church that had nothing. Okay, they had nothing. And so all the people, like 90% of the people were on welfare. But the pastor there had the sense to say, look, we're gonna get this welfare, blah blah, not welfare like food stamps. We're gonna do the food stamps, blah blah. And eventually they were able to open up their own grocery store, own this, that, so on and so forth. So and this is like an article like New York Times and all that stuff. But the reason why I'm pointing this out is to say that realistically speaking, yes, group economics can work. Nobody's going to tell you that group economics cannot work. America is an example of group economics. But the thing is that because America is an example of group economics, right? You have to understand that in order for group economics to work, you as a group have to go against other groups. And you're dealing with an incredibly large economy right next door that's going to deal with you. That's the difference. So it's not to say that you can't, for a little while get a little something done. And that was the example that I guess I was cut off earlier from, is that there was a sister that, because you said I stopped it because you said you didn't really want to talk about real money, but there was a sister who had like a engineering firm, right? And like her engineering firm was equipped to build roads, right? And so at one point she was able to get the government contract for building roads. And if you wouldn't believe it, but the white folk who wanted that contract, because that's where the real money is, the white people who wanted the government contract to build the roads in the city, just threw her out of the state. They threw her out of Michigan.
and that's exactly why I don't want to talk about real money. I do understand we are definitely under attack. We're not safe in here. I get that. But with that being said, we gotta make smart moves. If we could stay under the radar by building our little businesses and keeping our connection and everything like that, that can still strengthen over time. The issue is just actually bringing us in close vicinity to each other.
So let me finish this thing so that I can then go back to the comments and then come back to this book and whatever. Let's see. Compared to Asian, Hispanic, and white communities, black communities appear to be the only ones that are unregulated and uncontrolled by its own residents. For example, white communities have councils or boards that establish and enforce community construction and business standards. In Japan, but look how you understand. Look how he talks about nations. But look, so white communities, this is their nation. So yes, they're going to be able to do their own thing. In Japan, again, their nation. Most communities vote on whether or not to accept foreign businesses into their community. In the various ethnic communities in America, cultural barriers often establish standards and restrict business opportunities. In 1992, Cubans in Miami, Florida, publicly told Arab merchants that they could not establish businesses in the Cuban communities of Little Havana and Hialeah. The Arab merchants experienced no such difficulty in opening stores in black community in Coconut Grove. Now again, you can do an economic boycott if you want. That's for sure. All right. The civil rights movement succeeded in giving blacks a boost in togetherness and increasing their access to white power, but the movement produced horrific and unanticipated negative results as well. The integration process sapped the financial, intellectual, and political cohesiveness of black community organizations, the remaining black institutions, families, blah, blah, blah. All right, so this is the last one. Recommendation to achieve self-sufficiency, blacks must master the principles of capitalism and group economics. The window of opportunity for achieving this goal, and by the way, brother, why you don't cut your nail, man? Come on. The window of opportunity for achieving this goal will pass within the next decade. Civil rights, social rights, and integration cannot produce group wealth and power. So let's see, the window of opportunity. So that's what I'm saying. He says the window of opportunity for achieving this will pass within the next decade. This is like 20 years. This is like 50 years ago. But let's keep going. Vertical integration of industries.
It's not that old.
It was that old, man.
It is an older book, but he actually wrote another one that's more recent with the similar information. We're still in the same.
Exactly, still the next decade. Position. Yeah, still that next decade. If you don't go to the next decade, it's gonna be lost. Yeah, okay. Anyway, the brother wrote this 50 years ago, and he's still talking about it. I would have just put my hands up, but all right. Vertical integration of industries and businesses is a design that has the potential to create numerous individual but linked businesses, and therefore should become the basis for an economic development strategy for blacks. Vertical integrated businesses should be constructed around consumer products that blacks buy in a disproportionate number in areas where blacks are disproportionately represented in the production of the product. For example, blacks are high consumers of seafood, compact discs, tapes and records, electronic equipment, expensive athletic wear, liquor, leathers, goods, distilled liquor, and movies. They are disproportionately represented in musical, entertainment, education, and professional sports. All of these areas could represent opportunities for vertical business structures for blacks. In a vertically integrated business structure, blacks could control the, So again, like if you go over these things, you'll see that black people are not really equipped for these. The seafood, that might be technically easy, but not really. You would need to have industrial farming to compete with the seafood industry. Compact disc, I mean, besides from the
But hold on. Why would we need that's my point though. Here we don't need industrial size. When you go back to Africa, right? we want industrial size in Africa. Mm-hmm. But here we want to be able to maintain. Right now we don't have, as you said, the capital that we do have is being spent on all type of other consumeristic goods. We're not starting businesses. We're not building organizations. We're not building anything to allow us to work as a team or to allow us to build anything other than just work a 9-to-5 and spend your money. So I understand it's not an easy feat by no means. I'm not saying that it is, but we have to look at it where we can make it work. Just like repatriating back to Africa, we have to look at it where we can make it work. There may be countries that are willing to work with us, where there's others that is going to be way more difficult to make that move. So it's not simply, I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's a perfect method. I'm saying that it's something that can benefit us in a different way. We've been doing the same thing for so long. Say,
when you said about why would you need industrial, because you don't have enough fishermen to provide the seafood all across, like, for 40 million people. You know what I mean?
But that's my point.
All of this is industry. All of this is heavy industry.
In a specific area. In a specific area, is not going to be within that community.
Yeah, in a specific area, yeah. But like real talk, if you have a disciplined specific area, you're probably not consuming any of this stuff. This is all expensive athletic wear. Why are you selling expensive athletic wear to a people you're trying to be disciplined? Like, you're trying to discipline, or are you? I'm saying you're trying to produce it to go to the market. You're trying to produce it to the larger market. Like, even if you have a local community, you want to produce it and sell it to the larger market. The reality is that you do not have the industrial capacity to do any of this stuff for the larger market. You don't have the industrial capacity for seafood. You don't have the industrial capacity for compact discs, tapes, and records. You don't have the for the electronic equipment, for expensive athletic wear, leather goods.
So if we wanted to start a local grocery store, we wouldn't have no need for someone who caught some fish, so we could have fish in the grocery store.
But he's talking about, that's what I'm saying. Like what you're talking about is like, basically what I was saying was community centered. I'm saying that, yeah, you can do community centered economics. He's talking about providing the things that black people as a mass want. You don't have the industrial capacity to do that. Okay? What you're talking about is locally, locally providing fish is something.
It was a misunderstanding, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. You're saying as far as us producing for the whole nation.
You don't have the industrial capacity.
From one basic.
Maybe movies, but that's about. No, not even. You don't have any of this stuff. I don't see how you can do this.
I don't believe we need to produce it for the whole nation. That's just my point. I understand what you are saying as far as needing that.
No, I'm not saying what. I'm not saying what.
I'm saying what he's saying. He's saying about needing.
Yeah, what he's saying, because he's saying side. Blacks are high consumers of seafood, compact discs, tapes, and records, electronic. So he's saying, they are disproportionately represented in musical, entertainment, education, professional sports. All those areas could represent opportunities for vertical business structures for blacks. So he's saying that you want to get into these markets that are catered towards the black masses, not towards your black community, because your black community is probably not going to be involved in this stuff. You know what I mean? Like distilled liquor and athletic wear, no. Expensive athletic wear, probably not. But the black masses are. So the question is, do you have the industrial capacity for any of this stuff? And except for movies, no. You don't have in America, you really don't have any industrial capacity. Like, you have more in Africa.
And that is the point of him saying he wanted to build it over there in Africa. And I get what you're saying. To build things like
you have to repatriate.
Factories and things like that, you have to be there. But again, that falls in line with our connection. Our connections as businesses supporting each other. That's so maybe I'm, missing Dr. Claude Anderson, because I interpret it in terms of we want to master the markets in our consumer goals or whatever, what we sell. But while we master those markets, it's done within our communities mainly. and people got to come to us to get what we got. So, for example, if we were able to master the music industry to a degree and build something to allow us to get our own music out, opposing the mainstream. Understand what I'm saying?
All right.
That would be something that we can control easier.
Okay. Have you heard of God Hop?
I guess you would say.
Have you heard of God Hop?
Have I heard of
God Hop?
Who?
God Hop.
Nah, I've never heard of God Hop.
Okay, yeah, it's like a whole. Let me search it quickly. It's like a whole. I hope it's called God Hop. I don't know. All right, but it's like a whole music industry, like a whole music movement of like conscious musicians, you know.
Understood.
So like the reality is that, but the thing is, the trouble is that you don't have the like I mean I talk about this stuff in the Book of Power. So I'm gonna first read this thing about the retail in the Book of Power. Well, first off, I want to read.
Go ahead, pull it out.
I want to read from what Bitter Medicine's putting in the comment section. So he's saying 97% of the world's reserves of chrome, 85% of the world's reserves of platinum, 64% of the world's of manganese, 25% of uranium, 30% of the copper, 20% of hydroelectric potential, and 20% of all traded oils in the world, 70% of cocoa production, and 1/3 of the world's coffee production, and 50% of palm produced is in Africa. So it's like, you know, the resources, like Africa's not only resource rich, but, you know, I think it's a myth that black folk in America have industry at their disposal. They do have capital, but so do people in Africa. So everybody has capital.
We're not saying we have industry. We got to build industry.
Yeah, but why would you build it
with the capital?
The thing is this: most capitalists are saying we want to build industry in a less expensive area. You know, like one of the reasons why America is why Black America is going under, okay, is like essentially like you know the hood, all right. The hood used to be a pretty good place to be, right? And the reason why it was a good place to be is because there was good jobs in the hood, you know? So black people migrated to the northern cities because there were good jobs, there were factories, and so on and so forth, right? The factories, when they went overseas, meant that now there was no economic opportunity in the hood. And the only way for the hood to do better, obviously, would be to set up factories in the hood, you know? But the reality is that if you are looking to make profit, then paying people a good wage, you know, in America, versus a poor wage in Africa or anywhere else in the world, like in India or wherever, is not really good for your bottom line. Now, obviously, you know, as somebody, you know, who's sympathetic to black Americans, you might say, well, look, I would rather, you know, take the cut, take the hit. And I mean, that's fine. But again, it's but like the thing is that you probably won't even have the access to that capital, because in order to get the capital, you probably have to go to a bank. You know, and if you go to a bank and you tell them, hey, look, we want to do business in Black America to do blah 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 blah, right? You know, to empower Black Americans, blah blah blah. They're gonna say no, and that's it.
What about at a black-owned bank?
Yeah, black-owned banks do not have enough wealth.
Enough wealth to give us a loan, a business loan?
Enough wealth to, well, first off, like I said, the business idea. The factory, depends on what the factory is, but it might not necessarily be something that they would approve of. Like again, it's not like the reason why the white business says no is because it's not even financially viable, and there's better alternatives, better options. The black bank, however, does not have a lot of capital. Period. So I mean the book that, like, again, I'm not really saying I approve of this book, but the brother wrote the book. What was it called? The Myth of Black Buying Power. And I think it's like he does put in some, like, the thing I like is information, you know. So there is some information in it where you can walk away. It's actually, I put it on the in the Discord. So if people want, you know, like I said, if anybody wants to access the books we have, it's on the Discord. But one of the things that he pointed out was how much wealth is in the black banks versus how much wealth is in, you know, banks in general. And black banks are just like we're not really using them. You know, we're not really using them, and because we're not really using them, they do not have the resources to finance a whole bank. And again, like I said, I mean a whole factory. And again, like I said, even if you could do it in America, you could do it elsewhere. You know. So I think
understood.
Onsando gave us a link on how much black-owned banks have by state. Oh no, this is how many black-owned banks by state. I kind of want to pull up this book, but I can't pull it up. All right, let me read this thing from the Book of Power quickly. This is going to be, oh yeah, so Carlos Cooks. So Carlos A. Cooks, you heard of Carlos A. Cooks?
Yes.
Okay, good. So Carlos A. Cooks writes about Buy Black, and so in my book, even though I recognize Carlos A. Cooks as one of the better speakers in the in the Ma'afa, I gotta say that the Buy Black philosophy does not really work. And so in order for the Buy Black philosophy to work too, well, something that I thought was really interesting. The reason why I was interested in him was that they had like a lead pipe brigade, where they said, look, either you buy black or we're gonna break your legs. You know what I'm saying? And so they would actually attack people who didn't buy black. So they actually had people who, but see, the thing is that you already know that's criminal. You know what I mean? White people could definitely jail you. Well, white people could definitely jail you and imprison you for physically assaulting another person.
That's pretty much extortion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But let me go over it. So I do a critique of this speech, and I'm gonna go over it just so that you can because one part I'm gonna talk about retail and why retail doesn't work. So here I said this one's hilarious. Okay. Here Baba describes the lead pipe, the Legion and the lead pipe brigade. Let's say this 2,000 men. He said if you have 2,000 men going around beating people, you could discipline our community, right? All right. So anyway, the other thing to note. So he says. So I'm going to explain that it's utmost because I believe that you want the professionals. I call them the elites here, but the professionals of your people to be educated by your people. Otherwise we're going to enrich the Askari, and that's really something that's really important. Askari being the race traders, right? And they will then empower Eurasians. So this touches on the point of democratic businesses. So like because one of the things that if you say, oh, let's buy black, you don't know where these people's heads are, because again, like I said, a lot of times the money's just going to go back to white people, unless you're sending it to Africa or like some businesses send it to the Caribbean islands, but unless you send it outside of America, it's going to go back to white people. So unless racial education is universal or at least widespread, democratic businesses cannot go against our interests. So the classic example is mutual. Oh yeah, so like for instance, in anywhere if you go to any African-owned shop, you're gonna find skin bleaching creams. Like most of the times. You can actually find it inside of major white businesses too. But all right, the third note is that African businesses without an African nation is oftentimes worthless. So this is what I want to say. African businesses without an African nation is oftentimes worthless. Other ethnic groups do not simply resell white products at higher prices, something black businesses typically must do. If you ever step into an ethnic Eurasian shop, and you shouldn't, but you would notice that they sell the products of their home nations firstly, and perhaps the products of their host nation. Black businesses in America, where Carlos Cooks is talking about, tend to sell the products of their host nations exclusively. The host, however, can always sell their products cheaper than the hosted. Okay? So because retailing wholesale is fundamentally built that way. So faulting black consumers for obtaining the same product from a cheaper source, particularly if the black shop owner is an Askari, while it has some cultural merit, is the right thing to do in some capacity. The economic aspect is overlooked. In other words, the difference in patronizing a black retailer of white wholesale isn't that whites are excluded from the profit, as the white wholesaler makes their money regardless. It's that the black retailer gets some profit, as opposed to the whites getting all of it. Taking this profit to them, multiply for the community and finance black wholesalers, African nation, let's say, would be a great turn of events, but is often not the case. So in this way, participating in non-Ancobia markets isn't normally fruitful. This means that it's imperative to label African products for the African nation. All right, so this is pretty much telling you. I mean, it's a little bit deep in the book, so it uses a lot of language from the book. But the idea here is that, if you have a black business, you're going to, and you're doing retail, you're going to, the way how retail works, and I think Malcolm X was talking about this, but the way how retail works is that you sell, or you resell wholesale. Now, of course, I understand you're saying you'd want to provide for the wholesale itself, but again, you don't actually have the capacity to do that. But if you if you did, it would be nice, I guess. But it would be like you just don't have the industrial capacity, to produce on a wholesale level, So in that sense, you as a black retailer are just selling what white people make, right? And essentially, because you're selling what white people make, white people can sell it for less than you do. And because white people can sell it for less than you sell it for, black people have no real reason to support your business, except that you might get a little profit. And if all your profit is going back to white people anyway, then they're just like spending more for nothing. So again, there's a limitation in being in another country already. Now, if you were selling the wholesale from another country, like from the manufacturer, like for instance, when I was in Jamaica, they had like made in Jamaica drinks, like I think Bubba and True Juice, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
When they have, like, if you were selling those in America, that would definitely profit black folk, assuming that True Juice and all that is black owned in Jamaica. But if you're just reselling Coca-Cola, and you're just reselling Hershey's and what have you, right? Then no, it's not going to work. But then again, like I said, if you're just selling, products that are not industrially made from black producers, you can't sell it at any sort of way that will be affordable to people.
Well, I understand 100%. And at one point in time, we did not have access to these white wholesalers. When we did not have access to white wholesalers, we had to make everything ourselves. When during the time of segregation and Jim Crow and things like that, they didn't white people didn't sell things to black people's neighborhood in that aspect unless they built the business. So if a black person had a business and he was selling anything, it was made by a black person during that time. I'm saying that that's what we need to bring back.
All right, I want to tell you this. That's not necessarily the case. What black people were shopping at white stores. The thing is that like to a large extent, black people were shopping at white stores.
During Jim Crow,
yeah.
And when we were segregated, black people were shopping at white stores.
Yeah.
How is it possible to shop at a white store when it's a colored or colors not allowed?
No, it's not colors weren't allowed. Black people weren't allowed to sit down. You understand? You could buy stuff, you just couldn't sit down. So you could go to the general store.
What I'm saying is that they had patrons within the community though that had black businesses and were getting black made material. Yes, you're right. Some people did still patron white businesses. And that's, the whole reason they went to fight to sit at the lunch table. But what I'm saying is the ones who didn't patron those white businesses still bought from black owned and who had black made material is what I'm saying.
I mean, look, it depends on where you mean, but like if you're talking about, it depends on where you mean, but if you're talking about like there were black only cities. So in a black only city, you would have
Wilmington, North Carolina is a perfect example of a city.
In black only cities, you would have that. But if you're talking about most black people were patronizing white folk, and that's how segregation works. Segregation works such that black people lived separately, but their economy was controlled by white folk. So white people would go to the general store. And black people would, so like
segregation scattered us, right?
Yeah.
So we were all, small little pockets in white suburbs. But we still had huge black communities, just like now. We have small pockets of black people that are separated from us, but we still have huge pockets of people in the hood going through hell, right? So back then, we had people who patroned white people and wanted to get into the white suburbs, wanted to get into that white hotel, but we also had those who still stayed in the community and built there, and that's all.
Again,
you know what I mean? It really comes down to.
Again, that's not a real example. Okay.
A real example of community.
Let me say this. Like essentially the way how most black people were living at the time was actually pretty poorly. You know. So I mean, like, it depends on where you're talking about. But like you would have to name a city, but most black people were not.
Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay.
Wilmington, North Carolina was a black city that they built up. They had black bus lines, black taxis, black movie theaters, and all
okay,
of
you're
that.
talking about like the
And
exceptional cases.
destroyed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. You're talking about in those exceptional cases. Yeah, there were exceptional cases, but you're like those. All right. Let me say it this way. Wilmington, North Carolina, you say, right? Okay. It has 123,000 people in 2019. You know what I mean? So it's, and like, I don't know how much it was back in. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, back in whatever. Oh, you said, I guess, the massacre of 1898. You're talking. Yeah, during the massacre of 1898.
Wilmington. Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, so this massacre, like this city that you're bringing up, might have had. It looks like it could have had 2,000 people at the time. You know, like it's not really indicative of what black, like, it's not really indicative of the black experience. No, let me see. Wilmington, largest city in the state, had a majority population with black people accounting for 55% of its roughly 25,000 people. So there were 55% of 25,000 people. So let's just say there were roughly 13,000 people. So there were probably 13,000 people in Wilmington, North Carolina, at the time of this massacre. So, you know, like 100 years ago. So it's not really like the black experience. The real black experience was that black folk were just economically controlled by white folk. And then, yes,
so what about the Harlem Renaissance?
Yeah, so Harlem. Yeah, so Harlem. I mean, I don't know what about the Harlem Renaissance.
In terms of, that was a community. They had black club owners, black artists that came through. It was set up for us to rebuild as a community in Harlem before Harlem was broken down, turned into the hood, and then gentrified by white people.
Well,
so
I mean, again, I don't know what you
built.
mean, because when I was organizing, you know, in this organization, like, we would go to the Cotton Club, and the Cotton Club's like a really central area in Harlem, and I think now it's black owned, but I think back in the day it was white owned, you know. So I mean, I can't necessarily say. I think Harlem was, like I said, Harlem might have been like, there's a lot of places that were exceptions. Like Wilmington is an exception, Harlem is an exception, but like I think I went over what Malcolm X was saying about like how black folk were back in the days. Like back in, because I was trying to make a point about. Let me see if I can pull it up, because apparently we I think it's ecological.
But yeah, man, not to pick at it. I'm just, because you say they're the exception, I just feel, again, we can build those exceptions again, and that's really all I'm getting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We have accomplished it
technically, but like I said, you can't defend it. Even if you build something, you just can't defend it. So you know about Move 9, you know, where they just burned the building. You know about Tulsa, where they literally just bombed it. You know about the brother, you know, recently who did what, you know, who tried to do what he was trying to do, and they just like sent like a couple of brothers who, you know, were, you know, angry at the police or whatever, and the police just like burned them alive or sent a robot after them. You know, there's a lot of things that you just can't, because if you can't build up the infrastructure for war, then you can't win a war. You know? You're just in like the way how Black Wall Street was defended. The last part of its defense was they stood up against at a railroad and had to fire against a larger population that had airplanes on top of that. But it's like a railroad is not somewhere you have a shootout. If your line of defense is a railroad, right? Then you can't defend it. So here's what Malcolm X said. I wanna put this up for the people to see. But Malcolm X said, and I read this inside of one of the Sunday African worships. And by the way, brother, you should join us in the Sunday African worship. We every Sunday we worship, right? No, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look over some war stuff, right? Whatever. But look here. So Malcolm X said. You said
war stuff.
Yeah, worship. Like that's what everybody's really
Okay.
They're not worshiping.
Okay, all right.
They're worshiping. You know what I'm saying? All right. Well, look here. Back when I was growing, this is what Malcolm X says. Is Malcolm Little. This is page 8 of Malcolm X's autobiography. He says, back when I was growing up, the successful Lansing Negroes were such as waiters and bootblacks. To be a janitor at some downtown store was to be highly respected. The real elite and big shots and the voices of the race were the waiters at the Lansing County Club and the shoeshine boys at the state capitol. The only Negroes who really had any money were the ones in the number rackets or who ran the gambling houses or in some other way lived practically off the poorest peoples, who were the masses. No Negroes were hired then by Lansing's big old mobile plant or the Rio plant. Do you remember the Rio? It was manufactured in Lansing, and R.E. Olds, the man after whom it was named, also living in Lansing. When the war came along, they hired some Negro janitors. The bulk of the Negroes were either on welfare or WPA, or they starved. You see what I'm saying? So he's saying this is what it was like in Lansing County. So like that's the more realistic image. I'm gonna send people on the YouTube to that. But like that's the more realistic image that real talk black folk were, like roughly like we were starving and we were, janitors and bootblacks and like we had no professional, like we had much more limited professionals in a sense, and that's like the harsh reality, unfortunately. I don't know
what time. What time? That was during the Civil Rights era,
before
60s
the Civil Rights
and stuff like
before,
that. Right?
Before. This is segregation.
Okay, before.
Yeah, this is segregation. Yeah, this is Malcolm X as a kid. Well, no, Malcolm X as a kid. Yeah, in Lansing, wherever that is.
Okay, so this would be sometime after Marcus Garvey, before Malcolm X grew up and all that good stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
yeah. What can I say? So I mean, if there's anything, I don't know if there's anything else. I don't know how long you have. I think you mentioned artists. I think I mentioned musicians, entertainers on. I'll give you guys 2 things from the Book of Power, and then if you want, we could close out after that, just so that people can actually watch this. You know what I mean? They're gonna be like,
understood, man. Understood.
Wait a second, is this 3 hours? Alright, hold on.
I wanted to hear something from the book anyway, so let me sit back.
I wanna go into the black musicians in chair, white men. I wanna go about because the one thing that we wanna do is we wanna capture the music industry for some reason. Or like we think we could capture the music industry. But we don't seem to get that real talk, the music industry is a white man's industry, right? And like there's a reason why white people can control the music industry and why we don't. And so I kind of like outline it in the book. Oh my gosh, how do I? It's just so hard to find like what passage you're looking for in the book because you kind of use like you don't remember the words you use after a while, So I think it was I'm gonna search the word dance in this book and see what I come up with. But yeah, you have any other anything else you want to say?
Honestly, man, I just appreciate you letting me come on in, get the point across. I feel it's definitely a perspective thing personally. you could look at it as a right or wrong if you want to, but I mean, I think it's a perspective thing. Some people may feel comfortable. Others may feel comfortable going to Africa and, you know, enjoying a new experience. But for me, it's all about perspective, boss. I personally want to build something that connects us globally. It's too many of the African diaspora and on the African continent that is disconnected and disorganized. And I believe we need to make an effort to connect.
No, I feel you. I feel you. It's like I completely understand the desire to do something for, you know, us here in America. Like, I understand that. I just saying that if you're trying to do something for us in America, you have to do it in Africa. Like, you have to do it in Africa first. Like my first book is Zubiri and Maroons in My Eye. It's a very short book, but it's about a maroon town in America. But the only way that the maroon town in America works is because at that point in time, in the universe that Zubiri exists in, Africa has this powerful nation, so that would intervene on behalf of Africans in America, or that could provide the technology for Africans in America, as opposed to right now you can't. Nobody's gonna come to your defense. You know what I mean?
Understood. You are 100% correct. I agree. If we don't strengthen Africa and we plan on attacking, or we plan on complaining about the attacks we are receiving, we're currently right now complaining about police brutality and things of that nature, and this has been going on for, you know, ever since the police has been made, pretty much. And we don't have anybody to come to our aid. I 100% agree with that. But my question to you would be this. In your mind, how long would you believe it would take to strengthen Africa so that we can then start helping the diaspora?
Oh yeah, so here's the thing. You have to, it's like this. You have to go back to the lifeboat example, you know? Like, or even the mask example, like when you're on the lifeboat example, right? So I sometimes take this ferry and they say, look, first thing you do, or the life vest example, right? First thing you do, right, in an emergency, is you put the life vest on yourself. Okay? When I went to Jamaica, because that's where my parents are, or that's where my parents are from, and I went to Jamaica, and my grandmother was talking to me, and she was saying, she was like, oh, it's so bad how much the police are killing people in America. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't have to worry about the police in Jamaica. Now, she doesn't have the same police in Jamaica. Now, she did make a reference to the police in Jamaica, and she was like, the police in Jamaica are punks because they can't do anything against the Jamaican army, right? Like, apparently the Jamaican army and the Jamaican police might butt heads, and the Jamaican army, obviously is going to win. But like, the thing is that if you want to get rid of police brutality in your life, you can do that easy. You know what I mean? Because the police brutality is local. Like, all the problems that you have in this world are going to be local. So, but the thing is that if you move your locality, you're going to go to a different set of problems. But it's only a matter of, can you handle the problem? Like, if you have an entrepreneurial mind, you could handle the problem. You could have the problems in Africa. You might not necessarily be able to handle the problems in America. You know? So that, and I'm going to get into that when I talk about this thing right here in front of everybody. But otherwise, so like, all your problems are local. So for you as a black individual, if you want to get rid of your problems, dealing with quote unquote racist or whatever, right? Then just move. It's really that simple. Just move. But if you're trying to solve it for all black people in America, the reality is this: you can't solve it for all black people in America, because at the end of the day, the black people in America are the citizens of America. And America then therefore has a right to do whatever it wants with their own citizens. You know? But what you could do is you could give black people a comfortable way to transform their situation, back home, so that there's no longer any more excuses. But the reality is that no, you cannot really legit. I mean, it would totally depend on, it would totally be up to America. But like, let's say if America, like for instance, when it came to the Japanese internment camp. You know, America just interned their Japanese citizens. You know what I mean? Like you could do that because it's your country. You can do whatever you want in your own country. You know?
Yeah, I got you.
And Japan can't tell them, hey, you can't intern our. Well, partly because they were in war, but like eventually, yeah, you know, they did win the lawsuit and they got to, you know, got some money for it. But like the reality is that, you know, any country can do whatever they want. So, you know, the idea that you're gonna be, you know, outside of America and doing whatever you want with America, you would have to probably be like a larger economy than America, which is possible, but again, it's just not entirely, like, it's not something that you really want to count on. But if you were to but you could definitely, if there's like a black youth who you want to save or a black family that you want to save, you can do that from Africa. But I'm gonna read this thing. So there's a couple of Amos Wilson passages I have. This was considered one of the better ones. And I say, and like one of them he has, it's called, it's like he just says, he advises the people to move. You know, like somebody was complaining that their neighbor didn't like them, and he was like, why are you living there? Just move. You know. But like that's the case. But I would put that towards black people in general, saying if your nation doesn't like you, why don't you just move? You know, because your nation's not gonna like you. It's just not. It's not gonna like you, especially if you're threatening it on a national level. It's not gonna like you. But let's keep going. So I'm gonna read this thing right here. I could even read the critique on the move thing, but it says Baba starts out with quoting the blah blah. The Japanese elite should look down on Africans. Why not? His education makes them look down. Blah blah blah. Right? I'm gonna talk about because everybody look, like I said, you go home, you get your book, you read it, and you could read this on your own. He says, it says this is the entertainment industry. So this is actually an important one that I really think that, like, it was like I just added it to the book because I wanted the book to be holistic and have everything inside of it, right? So he says the last point I want to highlight, this is me, the last point I want to highlight is that the money in the entertainment industry is not mostly made by black people, but it's made by Eurasian people, right? So like this is one of the myths that we have is that we as black people make most of the money in the entertainment industry. But we don't.
Oh, I don't have that myth. I'm not, you know, confusing that like.
No, I mean, when I say money made,
the passage.
When I mean money made, I'm saying that we think that we are the ones that are generating the wealth. You know, like basically when Jay-Z goes up on stage and does his song, we feel like Jay-Z is the one making the wealth, right? Because he does the song, right? But it's actually not Jay-Z, but it's these white folks.
Well, Jay-Z actually got his own label.
Yeah, I don't mean when I say
idea.
Jay-Z. When I say Jay-Z, I was just using like a rapper's name. I just meant like.
Yeah, that was a bad one. You know, he just made $1 billion not too recent ago. You know
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, technically, but that's what I'm saying. Well, I mean, again, even if you look at it that way, you got to look at how the market works, and then you can see why these white folk are walking away with the bag, right? So I'm gonna explain it. So Jay-Z is not really a bad example. Like the performer is not the one that generates the wealth, and that's something that we have to understand. So it's like the last point I want to highlight is that the money in the industry is not mostly made by black people, but by Eurasian people. We need to understand the entertainment industry. It's not only the performer. Most of it is the setting up of venues, the recordings, the distribution, the advertisers, the promotions, kata wa kata, right? So I say if I grab two bums off the street and have them beat each other on a stage, there's no money there, right? But if I grab the same two bums and pay my rich friends to broadcast it in front of a paying audience, or my rich friends pay me for rights to broadcast it through advertisers of theirs, and I also gather a slew of people to pay to watch the two men fight, the money rolls in. So the point is that advertising, distributing, broadcasting, recording, hosting, this is where the money comes from. It doesn't matter if you sing, or if you kick a ball, or if you dance, or if you throw a punch. You could do all that well for 1,000,000 years and not make a dime. You know, many in continental Africa are dancing, singing, and drumming right now in poverty. You know, the Eurasian makes money in entertainment because he has the mentality to employ Africans to perform for his people, and he attempts to make sure the message suits the Eurasian patrons. So then I continue, I say stop looking at the performers and look at the credits. The African who performs for Eurasians are already literally bought. You know, disregard them. Then I say focus on our racial education, so on and so forth. And I say it's imperative that users understand reality and here economics. So let me see. To continue this explanation, the entertainment industry can be expanded on economies generally. Even agriculture, in the sense of commercial farming, only generates wealth through a network of buyers, advertisers, transporters, manufacturers, kata. We tend to look at the farmers, underpaid or unpaid, as the primary wealth generators, but that's clouds our understanding of nations building through economics. There were many underpaid and underpaid farmers around the world, but very few became wealthy. Commercial farming, like entertainment, needs to connect to a market in such a way to make a profit possible. And I say, remember the law of gain. That's in the glossary, right? So therefore, farming in itself isn't wealth generation. Singing, dancing, and even working isn't either. A holistic view of economies is in order to develop the wealth we can attain through intelligent leadership. Wealth is the domain of markets, which on a large scale are mostly handled by elites. This is why we empower the Keru, who have the potential to be the most intelligent elite. Yeah, all right. But like, again, it goes into technical language. But like the idea behind it though is that, like, just like I said, the farmer, the so on and so forth, you have to own these venues. So even when you talk about Jay-Z or something, Jay-Z has to have access to these venues. You get what I'm saying? So like there's a music video called N-Words in Paradise or whatever, where he's playing in. Ah, dang! I had the wrong window up all this time. Okay, so where he's playing in. This is the book, guys. Sorry about that. So where he's playing in Paris, right? N-Words in Paris, and he's on a stage. Black people don't own stages in Paris. You understand? Or maybe they do, but what I'm saying is that even when Marcus Garvey had his venue in Madison Square Garden, you had to pay Madison Square Garden to host that venue. If you want to advertise it, you have to pay for that advertising. This is where all the money is. You see? And the thing is that you don't even have the venues for this stuff. You know, you don't have the venues to be a real competitive musician or a real competitive farmer because you just don't have the thing. Now you could have it on the continent. Well, not you per se, but it would benefit, like you would have that collective wealth that you were looking for if you were engaging on the continent. But if you're doing it in the West, you don't have a giant stadium. You understand? And this is why other people can do this, because they have these things. And this is where the money really comes into, because again, like I said, because the thing is this, if the white community didn't like Jay-Z's message, right, they could say, oh, you're not going to perform at Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? You're not going to go to any concert hall. You understand?
I understand what you're saying. Again, I just believe it's a scale difference for me. Because in a broad scale, mm-hmm. you absolutely right. The venues, the things that we don't have mass access to, but we do have access to small venues though.
Yeah, that's not going to give you the wealth that you need.
It's all about scale.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, yeah, sure. You could do small venues. You could go to like Fantasia can sing in her church every weekend, and bring people to tears, right? But it's not until she goes on to American Idol, national television, and not until she gets into broader venues that she really has the money. She can sing in her church all day. There's plenty. Once upon a time when I did go to church. There was a singer that she wasn't Fantasia level, obviously, but I was listening to her and I enjoyed the singing, but she's not going to generate wealth from a little 30 people church, but if you're looking for that massive scale, like where musicians, because again, what Claude Anderson,
you gotta go to Africa.
You gotta go to Africa.
Understood.
All right. Let me just finish with this. Let me see if I can find this one. It's one of my speeches, so I'm just gonna try to read the. Okay, no, all right, here it goes. So this is the beginning of one of the best. I would say one of the reasons why the book is so pricey. That people think it's pricey. This is not in the preview. This is why sometimes when people talk about, oh, well, I read some of your book, it's like, no, you got to read this. This is the main essay to read. right? Like toward the end of it, I say, you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? Before the book even starts.
Okay.
So look, this is an explanation of Boko Waset Nakeru. I'm just gonna show a piece of it because I want people to still buy the book. But this is where Boko comes in, and let me see if I can find it though. Yeah, Boko is the first step in this African development. So here's what it says: the Ankobia model allows for widespread African literacy, skills, militancy, morality, and wealth. These are the rudiments for not only a powerful nation, but a desirable refuge from the global incompetency and hostility affecting African people. Land is necessary. So land acquisition is eased by the first stage of Pan-African unity, Boko. So land is like the first thing you want. And that's the thing when it comes to America. Most of the land is already taken. But still, you still want to say, I'm not saying that land is not taken in Africa, but you can get it. And not just that, land is probably a lot cheaper in Africa. But the thing is that you want land. So Boko is the Ankobia's per Ba, place of the Ba, place of the soul, our temple, our place of worship, our community centers. Okay? The Boko is, and this is what every people do. Every people have a Boko, right? Or a community center, right? The Boko is an institution, whether physical or digital, which has 4 main goals. 1, to seek and develop Ankobia and Ankobia consciousness. 2, to organize a locality into a prosperous, independent African community. 3, to collect taxes for the local war chest and the Ankobia nation at large. And 4, to discern and finance locals for Waset. So this is the most important one. Well, not the most important one, but this is really important. So the first goal is primary. Racial education is utmost for any people, and every powerful people make it their responsibility, whether for their children or their adults, to inform. And by the way, this is page 293 for those 5 people who have the book, right? No, I'm joking. Or their adults, to inform and impel them on their racial, national, communal, and familial identity, responsibility, as well as their language, skills, spirituality, war consciousness as a community member. This will also be our people learn their rudimentary academics, math, literacy, and so on, the liberal arts, outlined in the Pro-Black Compendium, as well as Medu Nefer, good words, good works, good war, and good was. The Boko, in this respect, mirrors initiations popular around Africa. So basically, you want to initiate people, and has always been the fundamental first step of every people seeking even local communities. So every people, white people, like the church does all these things. When I had the fortune or misfortune to be associated with a church as a young person, and sometimes I would go to Sunday school, like I guess most of us. And Sunday school, they would teach you like songs and lessons and all that stuff that still sticks with you to this day, right? So elevating consciousness is primary because every group is a consciousness group. The ethnicities of Africa today are consciousness groups. More, it is our tradition to group according to consciousness at the exclusion of others. I say the Ankobia is the highest stage of African consciousness. The inherent goal of Africans worldwide. We will open ourselves to all Africans who seek the consciousness and close ourselves to those that don't. In this way, a Pan-African language, Ankobia, can spread in the language of Boko. So basically, you want to have a facility to have that consciousness. Because again, if you're doing black businesses and you don't have the African consciousness, then like it's just you're just giving your money back to white folk.
Yeah, that's fair.
Way. So the second goal is also important. Local organization is paramount for any people. So providing a center or a nucleus for local activity not only facilitates cooperation, but further allows for trust within a community that then makes for development on a scale much further than individuals would normally attain or want to contribute. And that's the thing, like you go back to the church, right? So the church is a good model, right? But in the church, if you show up to the church every weekend, we can trust you in a sense, because you're in the community and we know you, we see you, and we can judge who you are, right? Contrast that to a people that you never see, right? Or like say it this way, you might have talked to me for a while and you might be like, hey, I could trust Oni, right? But let's say you sent me $2,000, right? You don't know if I'm gonna write you back. I could just delete my Twitter, and then how you gonna delete my Twitter, delete my Discord? How you gonna contact me? You know what I'm saying? And that's if I had this online premise. No, sorry, I have kind of a online premise where presence where I can't necessarily just dip, but if like it could be another person that you ain't never heard of, right? And you send them some money, right? They could just dip. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so you're pretty much saying that it's paramount to own land and everybody that's on the community be in close vicinity. So it's face-to-face dealing.
Local. Well, the reason why you want local,
understood.
I mean, this is what I would advise. Now, this is not the only way to do things, obviously, right? But I would advise that, because this is actually what, like I said, everybody else is doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I was walking by these Euro Jews one day, because apparently they meet up, I think, every Saturday, right? And I was walking by them, and they meet up, all the men in the community. Because sometimes you walk outside, and you see only women and children. And apparently all the guys are meeting up, discussing, whatever you think. So one time I'm walking behind them, and I heard them talking business. Like, oh, my son, he needs to get a job. And the other guy's like, oh, yeah, well, I have the steel factory, and I think your son might do a pretty good job as the so on and so forth. You understand? So that means every week these men in their community are meeting up talking business, right? But it's all local because they have a building. Because like I said, I passed by. They have a building, and I look inside. I peek inside. I don't walk inside obviously, but I peek inside and I see a community board. Like a board that you could tell nobody, like the doors are open, right? And people are walking in and out, so it's like every week they meet up to talk business. You understand? And that's something that every people do. Every people.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and if you think about it, the power of the powerless is the knowledge of the powerful. So we know that as far as Europeans, how they got their power, meeting up, organizing, planning. We just got to pull out of their book, and taking plans to Africa. I see nothing wrong with that.
Well, let me say this.
Take plans.
Let me say this. This is not their plans. This is the plans they got from Africa. Okay? These are the plans they got from Africa. So you would find this.
The idea of the local communal type meetings and things of that nature.
The taxes, everything. This is the taxes. The taxes.
Understood.
Yeah, that thing comes from Africa. So like you said, like the powerless learning from the powerful. The knowledge of the powerful. The knowledge of the people who were powerful during the time of these ancient Israelis or whatever.
Were the Africans.
Were the Africans, exactly. So
gotcha.
Local organization is paramount for any people, providing a center. And look again, community center. If you don't have a center, how do you have a community? How do you have a shape without a center? Does that make sense? No. All right, providing a center or nucleus for local activity not only facilitates cooperation, but further allows for trust within the community, and then makes for development on a scale much further than the individuals would normally attain or want to contribute. I want to just backtrack though. There was a sister who was in upstate New York. She would tell me that I think might have been the Dominicans, but I'm not too sure. But she said that Dominicans would show up, and the first thing they built was a community center. And after they built the community center, they were able to get a whole bunch of businesses in the black community. Because black people were not organized. And I don't know if it was the Dominicans, because I know people would say Dominicans are black or whatever, but it was some group of people who are not traditionally black, and they were able to come in. They were able to come in, and they were able to bring in more people, because they organized where they went, and that had to be a local organization. You see, the conversations that we have online are conversations that other people have locally. How can we, and the thing is that again, because if I want to do something for the people, like if you want to do something for your people in your community, right? Or let's say if I want to do something for people in my community, right? Why am I hitting you up?
Exactly.
You understand? Because
I have some sort of influence in your community. Right?
Exactly. If I'm hitting you up, how you know what I say I'm doing if you're not there. You understand? Because I can tell you all sorts of stories. I can tell you, once upon a time I was doing this, so on. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't do that, but what I'm saying is that anybody could do that. And because anybody could do that, you want to be local. You want to have your eyes on the ground. So the thing is that Claude Anderson's plan, he wants to do a lot of business in Africa, but not be in Africa. That doesn't make any damn sense. Because in order to do business with Africa and not be in Africa, it just doesn't even add up.
Nah, dude, you're wrong.
In order to do business in Africa and not be in Africa, I'm sorry, somebody else talking?
Yeah,
no,
PC.
go ahead, my brother, sorry.
PC likes hating.
Oh, you was good, but I was just gonna say you have to have the connection to the organization.
Exactly.
You can't cut off all the other people who are participating just because you feel that you need to be the person in Africa to keep everything rolling. Why can't somebody else do it?
No, I mean, definitely.
With leader qualities.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. You want some people there. That's what I'm saying. Like you want some people there.
Understood.
Yeah. Or you want something, some people there. You want to be able to, because actually the first thing I heard about Claude Anderson was his speech. It's really something he repeats a lot was that you want. He's like black people are the only people that don't hold our people accountable. You know, and that was the thing that really stuck with me in the sense that he was saying that like he would go around the country with a whole bunch of other ethnic groups, and every time he was like, hey, let's talk about accountability. Let's talk about accountability. Let's talk about accountability. And then one time some Native American pulled him aside and said, look, that accountability stuff, that's something that's not something that all of us need to talk about. That's something that only you have to deal with. Only black people don't hold each other accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like Native Americans.
That's true.
Yeah, he's like Native American. He's like for Native Americans, if you want to go work with the white man, we say fine. Go work with the white man, but you ain't coming back. But for black folk,
exactly.
you can sell out black folk, and then you can sell out black folk on Wednesday, and then you at the cookout on Friday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so no repercussion. There's no repercussion, and I understand that fully.
Yeah. So I mean, I look, I memorized it, so I'm not saying I memorized this from 10 years ago, so it's not like I disagree with it. But that's the thing though. It's like because you want to hold people accountable, I'm saying that I'm not saying that you have to, because I know PC gonna be hating. But what I'm saying is that there has to be something there to hold people accountable, and if you like there has to be something there. And I mean, obviously you can. I mean, I'm not gonna say that you can't, obviously, because if you're providing the money and you don't see any results, then you can stop providing the money. But that's still, that's still an L, by my book.
Yeah, I understood.
Yeah, because I know a sister who said that she contracted a couple of black businesses, no, a couple of black folk, and then didn't get anything, and like they just ran away with the money, and she's like gonna continue to work. She's gonna continue working.
I can speak for an example of I know somebody with a home in the Bahamas,
mm-hmm.
and it was destroyed due to a hurricane,
mm-hmm.
and there was money sent to try to rebuild the home so it could get rented out again.
Mm-hmm.
And same process. You send the money. You here in America, there in the Bahamas. I mean, take the money, buy products, resell it, do whatever,
mm-hmm.
but don't do what you want them to do. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, like, it's possible. Like, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but, again, let's just work through this, because I know it's 4 of them. Let's see, having a location for, so right here, it says, makes for development on a scale much further than individuals would normally attain or want to contribute. So right here, not only facilitates collaboration, but further allows for trust within the community that then makes for development on a scale much further than individuals would normally attain or want to contribute. So, like, it's not that people would not want to contribute to something that's outside of them, like, outside of the community. But if you're local, you would want to contribute more. No, it's just an advantage, right? Having a location for regular public meetings, events, markets, and fora will organically allow for unity on a local scale. Not only because the education will draw people together, but trust is built on frequency, and a community that frequently meets and speaks will conduct its own politics, economics, culture, and ethics. Definitively, everything is centered around its center. Lacking a boko is the cause for the amorphous association Africans now endure. The greatest Pan-African nationalists of the past, from Taharka to even Garvey, have constructed temples and meeting halls, and their successes were incomparable for it. So the UNIA, when I say meeting halls, is Liberty Hall. Like everywhere the UNIA was centered, they had a Liberty Hall. And that was really,
exactly.
I would say, one of the main things regarding Garvey's success. And in fact, one of the earlier African scholars, I want to say Jonathan Bruce, but Jonathan Bruce, like before Marcus Garvey, was saying, why don't black people own a meeting hall? And then Garvey came and he made, hundreds of meeting halls around the world, and he made one of the largest organizations on the planet. So the community center also provides, like, it's not just local education, it's also a meeting hall. And like I said with the Euro Jew example, a meeting hall is exactly what people would need. Like there's a difference between me and you talking and us being in our community with men or women or whomever
face
to
time
and saying this is what we need to do.
Else.
This is where the money is going. This is where because if I ask people for money, it's like, okay, what are you doing with the money, right? And what can you prove? What can you show us? But if I'm in front of people getting there, we have a war budget or whatever. That's it, right? So this is the third one. The third goal is necessary, especially in the early stages where Africans may not be gainfully employed by Africans. A tax of 10% practiced diligently by our people can allow for a war chest both locally and nationally. This is imperative. With a war chest, Africans can quickly acquire land, buildings, and building material outside of the normal means of traditional war and intimidation. It's worth noting that Kemet's leaders had a tax on its commoners based on their expected crop yield. The nation could then pay its administrators in the yield, and excess could be traded with other people, African or Eurasian, for other things that nation may want or need from other lands. One of the main goals in any true African nationalist endeavor is to employ our own people. Taxes allows for that employment, particularly if that war chest is geared towards productive work, the maintenance of local markets, or the generation of local wealth. Right? So you have that tax income, and you could then do productive work like maintenance of local markets and generation of wealth. And then, again, like you could do this in America too. It's just you could actually. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the second part. This is the part that is like something you want to do in Africa. But the fourth goal leads to the next stage of Pan-African unity. Waset is higher education. In ancient Kemet, ancient Waset was the city of power, and it was a location of higher learning. The Boko will be used to observe and discern who among the local community should pursue higher learning in the vein of specialist or advanced knowledge and skills that a race must do for itself and keep for itself. The ideal candidate would be a competent race loyalist through and through, and they will be promoted by their own community to study in a Waset in Africa, and if they succeed, attain the third stage of Pan-African unity. This is where the brilliance of Africa will be geared towards Africans, the opposite of the brain drain African populations endure at present. So that's where I could stop. You know, like I said, if you like the book, if you like what you just read, definitely check out the Book of Power. And I'm just talking to the audience at home, right? You know, I mean, like the people who watch this video in the future. But like that, like I said, yeah, you can definitely, like a community center could definitely, like I would say community center. If you're trying to be an industrial rival to America, but that's what Claude Anderson is promoting in America, that's highly improbable. You know?
Lies.
Because
Speaking lies. Speaking lies again.
Okay. All right, PC. I'm gonna have to. I don't know if I should keep it down there. But yeah. All right. No, it's not a lie. It's
You're wrong.
All right. Let me just. All right. Why do you say I'm wrong? All right. Why has? All right. Let's say it this way. Why haven't black people been industrial rivals to America in 400 years?
Why haven't?
Well, I mean, PC wants to explain to me that black people, for some reason, can be industrial rivals to America. So why haven't they been?
They haven't been because we haven't fully organized. Wait, all right, so...
No, I think PC wants to tell it. Let PC tell it, because I don't know why. PC,
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
please,
PC, why haven't black people been industrial rivals to America so far? If it's so easy to do. PC. All right, so that's what I'm saying. So, like, you know, all right, PC, what do you say?
Your question is, why haven't black people become an industrial rival to white America?
Yeah, if it's so easy to do.
I didn't say it was easy.
Okay, why haven't they then? Like, why have these greater minds than all of us? Why haven't they done it?
I missed what you said. You said, why haven't the greater minds?
Yeah, why haven't these great minds of the past, why haven't they become industrial rivals to America?
So, in my assessment, the masses of black America are distracted by forms of entertainment and escapism. That's the summation of it.
Okay, but why haven't
because it hasn't been done.
Okay. You know what I'm saying? This is the thing with black folks. So they say
absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
All right, so that's what I'm saying. So this is what I mean. Like, we have to be realistic. You know, we can't just say something is wrong. The reason why our ancestors couldn't pull it off is because it can't be pulled off.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
No.
Wow.
No.
He's 100% wrong. How do y'all sit up here and listen to this guy? It's unbelievable.
I mean, I'm not going to say he's 100% wrong. I do agree that Africa needs to be made strong. I do agree that we need to build in Africa. But I disagree that we cannot establish community here.
No, I said industrial rival. No, I said industrial rival. So
as we establish that community, nourish it, build it, we shall become a rival We shall grow. It's not going to stay a rinky-dink shop forever. Again, I think he was spot on with the distractions and the things of the mind that have gotten us so pulled apart.
Even if you say the distractions, though, look at this. Even if you say, oh, it's a distraction, who controls the distraction? Again, you're in a...
You control the distractions you allow to permeate your mind. You control that. You can turn your own TV off. You can stop and read a book.
I'm saying on a wider scale, right? Because black people are not educating themselves. Like, because we don't have the infrastructure to educate ourselves. More people, like, we don't have the infrastructure to actually counteract the miseducation. And because you don't have the infrastructure to counteract the miseducation, what happens is that whatever infrastructure, whatever your efforts are, collectively or locally, is going to be outpaced by the industrial efforts of another people. So essentially, they have like for every school that you build, they build 100 new schools. So every student you have, they have 100 other black students. So what happens is that it's going to outpace and make whatever progress you are advancing become less and less effective. So that's why I'm saying that essentially you are on a sinking ship, and the only redemption would be that Africa. You know?
You say Africa, but there are schools in Africa that have been colonized as well still.
Of course.
So we have hills
the difference
to climb.
Again, the difference
we gotta
is that
climb them together.
Yeah, the difference is that if you become the Secretary of Education, right, then you can influence it in a Pan-Africanist way. You can't do that here in America. So even Marva Collins,
it's less likely
Marva Collins,
to become the Secretary of
exactly.
Education.
Marva Collins almost became the Secretary of Education, but she would have to fit the white supremacist whatever, if you will, or the white racist narrative. And in fact, if you look at Marva Collins, pedagogy, she bigs up Wazungu education big time. You understand? So that's partly why Marva Collins would have even been selected. So that's really what it comes down to. That even if you feel like, hey, we can accomplish much in America, you have to be realistic about what industry, like how much machine beats man, and how much infrastructure competes, how much infrastructure outweighs personal activity. Because I could show you, like here on my website, I could show you let me see if I can find it. There was a New Jersey back in Newark. There was like a document about the Umwanamanke Umwanachi, right, the nationalist woman, 1971, and what it is, it's about a school system. It's about a school system that it's about a whole school that was like a committee in 1971 on social development, an independent black school in Newark, New Jersey, and it's gone now. It couldn't survive. And the reality is that there's a lot of progress that could be made by black people, but it's hard to compete against something, and especially when you are, in the words of PC, actually, when you are down bad. When you're down in this sense, what it does is that even if you have how many students, right? Even if you have the best school, if it like there's no way for it to survive. What you would need to have in order for it to survive, what you would need for it to have in order to survive is like some way to compete with America on a large scale. And it's just like, if it's wrong, then I have no idea why the Newark school is no longer here. And we can easily say,
a lot of stuff that's not here.
Exactly. That's the point. These people were nationalists par excellence. They were, look at this right here. They were teaching Medu Nature, Swahili, proper nutrition, right? 40 years later, they're not here.
But there are schools like that now, though.
Exactly. And where are they going to be 40 years later?
They may be gone. They
Exactly.
may still be around.
Okay. And then how do they compete against? I mean, how are their numbers compared to the miseducation system?
It depends on the metrics that you use.
No, how are their numbers? I'm saying population-wise.
What do you mean?
Population-wise.
Oh, okay. Is the goal to
Yes. 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 That's what I'm saying. That's the goal. The goal
is max in the industry for you. That's your goal. Max industry. And in order to do that,
I said compete industrially with America. That was the claim. It wasn't that you can't have any small industry. I said compete industrially with America. If you're trying to compete industrially with America, right? Then yes, that's different from, I have 10 kids in my basement. You know what I mean?
Under no circumstances, just by the nature of our population sizes, under no circumstances would you be able to compete head to head.
That's what I said.
Well, if that's,
and then he said I was wrong. Come on, man.
But that means.
All right. Anyway, so I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I said that, and then he says I'm wrong. Then he comes and says same, just use a different one.
Well,
basically, you just hate listen. You just hate listening. Listen to it, man.
We understand that we can't compete head to head.
That's what I said.
The issue is no. I know that you said that. I'm just saying that again. The issue is, in order for Powernomics to work the way Claude Anderson is claiming, we need that equal competition. Is what Oni is saying. But he's also saying we cannot achieve that in America alone.
Exactly.
We must first start in Africa.
That's what Claude Anderson is. Claude Anderson is technically saying the same thing, except for that he's saying that he wants to employ African Americans.
Start in America.
He's saying get the resources out of Africa. So like everybody kind of knows that the resources in Africa. But I would recommend that if you're really trying to do a holistic business sense, then you would go through the whole thing. You, my brother, Claude Anderson, have been fighting for years. I'm not attacking. Y'all think I was attacking Claude Anderson?
Nah, I don't think you're attacking him. I think you're just disagreeing with what he has put out there.
I mean, like I said, I memorized him from a long time, like 10 years ago. But anyway, that's what that's probably all I would say. Daniel Clements is saying I'm attacking the brother for reparations and black people in general. I didn't even mention reparations. Did I mention reparations? I mean, I said I wasn't fighting for it, but I'm like, you could ask PC. I'm not supposed to get it, so I don't know what that's about. But anyway, I mean, I don't have anything else to say though. I read that part of the book. I mean, what do you think about that, the Boko thing? I am black every day.
I believe that the Boko thing is like our consciousness, man, controls a lot. Our community controls a lot. The planning, all of that, man, it's right on with where my mind is.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just the location is, relative to the person. You know what I mean? If you could make it to Africa,
it in America. You could do it in America, but again, the second part. See, the trouble with this, the trouble is that even if you have this community center, if you don't have let's say the tertiary education, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do, because you still have to send your people to, you have to find out how to get tertiary education somehow.
Understood. Yeah. We have to find out how to be able to support ourselves politically, economically, our culture. We have to control our culture. That's the reason that the music is the way it is now, because we don't control the music and the culture.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean? It's a lot of things we have to control. It's a lot of work that it's going to take, but I believe it's definitely possible. Over time, we shall grow. And I mean, honestly, man, I really, like I said, man, I enjoyed this conversation, and I love hearing about the community center and things like that, because I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
The neighborhood that I live in, we don't have any youth center. When I grew up as a child, I was used to going to a youth center.
Yeah, we
where
have
I
youth
had
centers
something
where
to
we
do
play
with
sports
myself.
and stuff. Yeah, we play sports and crap on there,
Exactly. We lost a lot of things within the community to help keep the community together. The church is about the only thing we got left.
Exactly. So apparently PC and Daniel Clemens, they both hate listening. No, Daniel Clemens' situation started. He decided to jump on too. He's in the comment section. But I mean, we can't really, we could obviously chop it up, after the broadcast. But let me know, like, anything else you wanted to say though, like, oh yeah, so alright, so I mean, I made the case. I feel like I made the case about Powernomics in Black America. Is there something that I didn't? Like, you're saying that, you're just saying that because you're in America, you just want to work in America, which is fine. I understand that. I'm just saying that, the thing that Black people really need is a university. That's not necessarily. I mean, of course, we have Howard and so on and so forth, but that's not Howard and so on and so forth. Like a real Pan-African centered nation building type of university. Okay.
Yeah, man. I mean, I want to say, not to cut you off, but the way the school system is, period, is really only geared to set us up to send us into the work.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like you have to realize that there's a difference between Harvard and University of Cincinnati. There's a big difference between what you learn in Harvard and what you learn in University of Cincinnati. Nothing wrong with the University of Cincinnati, right? But the nation builders, my man was the University of Cincinnati, but the nation builders are like the lessons that the real lessons that you have to learn to run a nation are going to be those that you find. Like, you might be not going to find it. Like, if I walk in Harvard, I probably won't find it. But if you're in Harvard, you're going to find a way. Like, let's say the fraternity's there. You know what I mean?
If you take the right classes, join the right groups,
you know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean? Because they got private libraries in places like Cambridge, Princeton, Yale, exactly. Harvard. They have private libraries that even the students who go to that campus still can't access unless you're in the proper organization or activities and things.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, every people has this, except for us. So I would say that really, truly, you would want to focus on the building of a first-class university on the continent. And it would have to be on the continent. Like you couldn't build it.
He always like to slip that in there. What?
It gotta be on the continent.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it'll be far more functional here in the States, no doubt about it.
A first class university in the objective of a nation builder. When I say first class university, I'm talking about like nation building, like ruling nations. The thing with America is that you can't hope to rule America.
You don't have to. I mean, there are all types of world leaders who come here, university, study, and then they go back to their nations and conduct business.
What world leaders? What were you talking about? You mean in Africa?
No, I'm talking about around the world. For example,
like Harvard, like go to Harvard, yeah.
Kim Jong-un went to Cambridge or Oxford, whatever university.
Yeah.
And he went back home and handled that business.
Okay.
So to suggest that it needs to be on the continent in order to, people come over here for university all the time, then they go back home and conduct what business they
but again, you're beholden to the laws of America when you're in America. You understand that?
That's true, but is that not the same on the continent? Are you not? Can I usurp the government?
No, you're not usurping, but you again, if you're having a pro-black curriculum, a Pan-African pro-black curriculum, and you're in America, they could close you down. But if you're in Africa, if you're in a friendly nation, the point is to be in a friendly nation. You get what I'm saying?
If we're in a hostile African nation,
don't
it could
be
the same thing. Though.
Exactly. Don't go to a hostile African nation.
A war could break out, and a coup d'etat could break out and make all our work null and void.
Okay.
Like, this happens all the time on the continent. No disrespect to our brothers and sisters over there, but those governments are less stable, if you will.
Okay. But again, like you just said, you wouldn't build in a hostile nation.
If a gang...
Would you build in a hostile nation?
Well, of course not.
Okay, so then is America a friendly or a hostile nation?
That's a good question.
Is America a friendly or a hostile nation?
That's a good question.
For black nationalism. America a friendly or hostile nation?
For black nationalism, now that's a direct question. No, it's not a friendly nation.
It's not a friendly nation for black nationalism. So therefore, if you would not build in a friendly nation, would you build in America?
Yes.
Dang, PC! Yes. Yo, you can break down the logic. Yo, look, you can break down the logic of this brother. He's still. You can get an if-then statement. No. Hold on a second. Y'all just heard that.
I'm not trying to. Hold on.
You just heard that. You could give the brother the if-then statements. It ain't even like, it's straight up logic. Would you build a hostile nation? That's a good question. No. Would you build a hostile nation? Heck no. F no. Is America a hostile nation? I don't know. I mean, shit. I'm getting lynched. I'm getting police shooting me. Is it a hostile nation? I don't know. Huh?
You're right, but that logic is sound, but it's not that cut and dry. That's all I have to say about that. So that line of reasoning was absolutely correct. But
exactly.
It's not that cut and dry.
You're saying America is not a hostile nation to black nationalism or Pan-African Nationalist unity or nothing like that?
That is the case, but it's not that cut
and
dry.
Oh my gosh!
It's not. It's not that cut and dry.
Yo, somebody put up the face bomb.
Let's bring it to Garvey, right? Garvey's base point in his organization was in America, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's where he started. That's where he wanted to build everything.
He wanted
to make it to Africa to continue to build, to strengthen the nation and bring the nation and the continent together.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he started in America, though.
No, he started in Jamaica. He started in Jamaica. He got deported from America. He
was born in Jamaica, and I mean, he started as a writer.
Let me say this. Look, Garvey says in his own words that he started the organization in Jamaica. He made a branch in America.
And what happened? He got up and left, right?
No. He made a branch in America.
To America because he's seen what we were going through.
Guys, let me hear this. Yeah. He made a branch.
With Garvey, hold just real quick. With Garvey, remember, he got invited by Booker T. Washington to come to America because, they were about to do some serious shit. But Booker T died literally like 2 months right before Garvey came. But he was invited. So we can't really.
That's the thing I want to say though. Look, let me explain this.
They stayed and set up shop.
No, yeah, exactly. Let me explain what happened because Garvey explains it in Philosophers and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. So what he says is that he starts up an organization in Harlem, right? And then he leaves it to the black Americans there, or the black people, the black New Yorkers there, right? And then when he's leaving, they beg him to stay because what happens is that the local politicians, local political groups, kind of infiltrate and take over the UNIA in Harlem, and because they take over the UNIA, like I guess the Democrats and Republicans at that point, right? Because they take over the UNIA, that's like he has to go there and then stay, and then he stays afterward. So, but basically, if he was on his way back to Jamaica, but because because the people there were like the Democrats and Republicans kind of were fighting over the influence of black folk, he had to he stayed afterward. And then the real reason why he was successful in America was because Garvey was just a magnetic individual. He was just an exceptional individual, and nobody else could have done what he did. Because nobody else did.
I think if he would have groomed him, there could have been somebody to follow him to have the same charisma and have the same energy.
Well, yeah, but that's still on him. That's what I'm saying. That's still on him. It's not it still makes he's still the exception. It's not like America was just some easy place to organize. It was that Garvey was just a really great organizer. And the thing is that if you really think about how much even today. Jamaica is 2 million people or 3 million people, and Black America is 40 million people. So I as far as I understand, Harlem might actually be bigger than Harlem.
Jamaica.
Yeah, Harlem might actually be bigger than Jamaica. So like even today. So I don't like. It's not really like it's actually a pretty good place. But the thing is that you have to realize when it comes to America was that America was pretty damn friendly with Garvey up until he started talking about African Revolution, and then the British and the French were like, hey, you can't have that guy doing that stuff, you know. But basically America was just kind of young and naive at the time, but it's not really young and naive anymore, you know. Like it grew up since its Garvey experience. So it's like, yeah, the way how he got out of the way how he had success in America, it was more because America was kind of just silly. And yeah, I was actually pretty dang wrong. Harlem is not that popular. Harlem only has 116,000 people, so I might have misspoke about Harlem.
Harlem, Harlem in New York City is Harlem's one of the boroughs, I think.
Yeah. So I mean,
maybe the whole of New York City.
Yeah. Oh, probably definitely. Yeah, New York City. Yeah, New York City has, but like New York City is like pretty damn big, but it's like 8 million people in New York City. So yeah, it's like 3 times the size. Well, 2 times the size. Oh yeah, between 2 and 3 times the size of Jamaica. You know, is New York City, just the city alone. So it's like having that kind of access to people is one thing. But again, you can't necessarily look at. But like Garvey, again, like I said, Garvey's success more to do with America's naivete. But America no longer has that naivete, and so it's just not going to be friendly. So yeah, Garvey is an example of somebody successfully maneuvering in America. But again, it was like America was like, because Garvey was like, hey, we're gonna take Africans out of America, and so America was like, great, thanks so much. But when he's talking about, you know, revolution in Africa, what happens is that Britain and France say you can't have somebody talking that kind of stuff, and if you have somebody talking that kind of stuff, then you got to grow up, America. So America has since grown up, you know. So again, like I would definitely say that America's not the venue, because America, like if you could have done some revolutionary stuff in America, like a revolutionary, like America's one of the biggest counter-revolutionaries on the planet. You know what I mean? like straight up, one of the biggest counter-revolutionaries on the planet. Like no question about it. Like people around the world know America to be that counter-revolutionary. Anyway, anybody else anything else to say? I know PC got some hate to say. PC, what's
Black every day.
Huh? You're black every day? Oh yeah, so like how can we get into contact with you? How can we get into contact with you?
I'm black every day, man.
That's
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
One sentence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that you on the end of your Twitter you have a 1 at the end of day 1. I don't know why was there somebody else that had the same name?
Man, I'm not sure why they did me like that. It's to be honest, I looked at a lot of names and there's some random ones with day 1 at the end or a number at the end. I don't know why they did it like that.
Dang, okay.
But you're right though. For it's black every and then D and 1. But I mean, irregardless, I mean you know what I mean. We're always, I'm pretty sure, on some platform pushing whatever we need to be pushing. So it's quite easy to get into contact.
All right, that's good. So yeah, all right. So I'm gonna on the broadcast. I'm gonna tell people at home, don't listen to the hate that I get. You know, I got haters. You know, I mean, I should know better. I should just kick them, but I'll just leave them for now. But I mean, it was a good, fruitful conversation. I'm not gonna say it wasn't. But you know, if you're wondering why you're listening, if you are listening, you know, like it's because, you know, this was I feel like this was a good conversation, and I wanna say that we went over this, and hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. But thanks so much to everybody who participated, everybody who was listening, and people in the comments. I see that Daniel Clemens is flooding the comment section. He's saying Garvey failed and white people infiltrated. And he's responding real time to the dialogue as if he were there. I don't know why he didn't just sign on to the voice chat, but we're gonna sign off before he does. And otherwise, though, thanks so much for listening. This has been the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Make sure you check out the Business and Medicine podcast and other programs on the like the Harsh Reality podcast and other programs on the KWAZ Radio. And make sure you join the Discord and you know, like IAmBlackEveryday said, there's free books available, and you can keep in contact and you can jump on and all that. And if you want to have another conversation, just let me know and we can do that. But thanks so much for listening, and Shem Yam Hotep. Alright, I ended the stream.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to